Welcome in to Check the Mic. Steve Palazzolo, Sam Monson, live on YouTube from the Antonio Cromartie studio, in part with Huggies, all presented by Fanduel. Time for our Wednesday update. Wednesday show.
Yeah.
The update. We got news. We're going to draft Super Bowl contenders. We'll talk a little Seahawks Texans, late night, Monday night football. But most importantly, Sam, congratulations.
Yeah.
You passed.
I did pass. I passed the immigration test, which is not the most stringent test in the world. Wasn't that hard.
You're saying the U.S. is getting a bad rap for letting people in right now. You're saying
I'm saying
you're right in.
The primary focus of the process appeared to be, can you speak English? You know, that was the driving force.
Yeah.
Like, can you speak English? Can you answer? Like, the questions I got were not the difficult ones from the test. You know,
Not Gaelic.
It was
English.
Would name one of the two longest rivers in America.
What'd you go with?
I went with the Mississippi.
You didn't go with the Ohio out here.
No, isn't Minnesota's at the far end of the Mississippi, right? It's somewhere on the thing.
Yeah,
so when I was there,
all the way
Mississippi was the thing. I'm a Mississippi person.
It's one of the two longest?
Yeah. Mississippi and the Missouri.
And the Missouri's the second. Okay,
Yeah.
so I mean, that's why glad you didn't say the Ohio.
No, yeah, it wouldn't have been. Well, the Ohio is a tributary, right, of the Mississippi. Doesn't it feed?
Is that
into
what
it
it's
at some
considered?
point?
I
think
know,
so.
Man.
Anyway, point
Don't
is,
put me on the spot here with geography.
I knew the Mississippi. I went with the Mississippi. I wasn't going to change it up. And,
Of course, I mean,
run
that's
the risk.
It's the easiest one.
But then it's like, the thing flashes up on the screen. It's like, what does this say? It's like it says, I don't know, people can vote or something. Like, all right, and they're like, write this sentence down, please. You're like,
oh, it's really can you
it's literally like,
communicate?
can you speak English?
Wow.
Like I said, there's 10 questions. Once you hit the 6, they just stop asking you questions, and they were the easy ones from the thing.
Well, congratulations. This is it's like the legal tampering period right now. It's in principle.
Yeah.
It'll officially be official.
Well,
in weeks, right?
So I get a ceremony at some point in like mid-November, and then I need to get a passport because after the ceremony, technically you're a citizen, but I can't leave. I'm trapped then. I guess that doesn't count. Like that's a lot of Americans don't really care about the passport thing, But for people that leave the country, come back at times
when you're trying to get back to the motherland, where you're former citizen of Ireland, even though you're not. Well, congratulations. That's great. You can, as Walt says, you can vote. You can do all sorts of fun stuff now. It's great.
Yeah.
Good. Welcome.
Big day.
Glad you're in here. And glad my podcast partner is still here.
Yeah, not being detained and deported is a big win from this process.
Huge win for Sam, for Check the Mic, for all of us here at 33rd Team. So congratulations to you. Ready to talk some football? Mm-hmm. Anything else to discuss up top?
No, just a welcome to Jason CJ099, who's the most recent superfan member that we have on the channel.
Awesome. Our super fans, our insiders.
The members are flying in all the time. You can check out the membership options that we have available. The middle of which you get your name over on the wall over there, like written into the studio as if it was a brick dedicated to you.
Yeah.
The billionaire, the Howard Hughes billionaire tier, you get to name the studio. We've already got one person that's done that, and that's why the studio is named in honor of Antonio Cromartie.
I'm ready to rename it. I'm ready for someone else to supersede it. So it's all open. The billionaire tier, Howard Hughes. Let's start with, we don't normally do this, but Monday Night Football. Let's go back a couple days here. Seahawks and Texans. This was some kind of game here. 10 p.m. start. Ended, pretty late. Seahawks get the win to move.
Apparently, it was the latest ending of a game ever.
Felt like it.
Yeah.
Felt like it. I'm just picturing the NFL being like, all right, now.
You stayed up to watch the whole thing?
I did. I'm like, we're headed to Hawaii to get to the third part of our triple header here.
Yeah.
Like, I was waiting for that. I stayed up for the whole thing because you don't get the 4 kids. They go to bed kind of late. You don't get a lot of quiet time at the house with the 4 kids. So it was like quiet time, watch the game. 27-19, Seahawks get the win to move to 5-2. Texans fall to 2-4. A rough one from the Texans' perspective and a fierce defensive outing here from Seattle. What were your initial takeaways on this one?
Yeah, well, that part kind of went as expected, right? Like, this was the thing. The Texans have had basically one game this season where the offense looked viable because the pass protection held up, and it was against the Baltimore Ravens defense, who have become the asterisk this year, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're the get-right spot in a weird confluence of events, the Baltimore Ravens of all teams have become the defense where it's like, it doesn't count. If you did it against the Ravens, forget it, throw it out, it's irrelevant. So coming off the back of that, you're like, okay, well, that's nice, but what happens when they face a team like Seattle who just destroyed Jacksonville's offensive line? Like, it's not going to work. And it didn't. I mean, they were getting murdered the entire game. Like, they've got receiving talent, but Stroud can't get it to them because he's getting buried behind that offensive line. And it's starting to remind me a bit of Cleveland Browns Baker Mayfield when Greg Robinson was his left tackle, right? And it's like, even when it's good, it's bad because you're already breaking the quarterback to the point where he doesn't trust it anymore. So the offensive line personnel is terrible. I don't know that they're doing a ton to help him out schematically. And Stroud is now in his own head in terms of he doesn't trust anything around him anymore.
I don't want to exaggerate here and say Stroud looks broken. In this game, he looked broken because Seattle has done this a couple times. This coming into the season, I at least looked up and down this Seattle team and said, man, Mike McDonald has done some really nice things in his career defensively. They've added a ton to their defensive line over the last 2 years. They look loaded up front, and they've got some aggressive, feisty defensive backs. And even though they've had a lot of injuries there, this was kind of the culmination, I think, of a lot of their defensive personnel moves over the last couple of weeks, even with backup corners in and out over the last couple of weeks, making the Jags look bad, making the Texans look awful, and coming off a bye. The Texans, once again, there was plays where they looked unprepared to pick up pressures. Stroud wasn't handling pressure whatsoever. Pretty much could have had two safeties there where he's running backwards into the end zone and lucks out that they called it forward progress.
What was the line of scrimmage in that play? He ran back a mile.
It was the way he handled pressure early was really, really bad. And then there was the other one he tried to throw under pressure, and it was kind of backwards, and it was very risky. The fact that the Texans were within 2 scores and eventually within 1 score for the majority of this game was mind-boggling. Because Sam Darnold probably had his worst game as far as decision-making, and the Texans scored 19. I got a couple stats to throw out there, but one of the touchdowns that the Texans scored was Sam Darnold being in the end zone, compressing the pocket getting compressed on him. He tries to spins out right into Will Anderson, who wasn't even winning his rep necessarily. He was just there to clean it up, force a fumble, and then the Texans pick it up in the end zone for the touchdown. The Seattle Seahawks, between 2 interceptions, one from Darnold, one from Cooper Kupp. Yeah. Like the Seattle Seahawks tried to throw this game away offensively with 4 turnovers. Was it 4 or 5? I see 4, but I don't know why I heard someone say 5. Darnold and Kupp, and then 2 fumbles in there. One from Darnold and in the end zone. The Seahawks tried to keep the Texans in this game.
And they were sort of spread out so that it was every time they got this 2 touchdowns very early, 14 points on the board. You're like, okay, this is going to be fairly comfortable destruction job on Houston. And then every now and again, they would just turn the ball over catastrophically to let them right back in it or keep them in it and make the game way closer than it felt like it should have been. And it was remarkable sort of how evenly spread those catastrophic turnovers were. Like every time you think, all right, now they're finally going to put
now Seattle's going to pull away, right?
Yeah, and it just every time that happened, they tossed the ball right back.
And Darnold did make some great throws in this game. There was just, bad interception, bad fumble. There was some bad plays in there as well that helped keep the Texans in it. Jackson Smith and Jigba, unreal again, 8 catches for 123. All of the efficiency stats have JSN in special territory this year, whether it's yards per route run, whether it's target share, market share. What do they call for receiving for yardage? Either way, 123 of the 213 passing yards that they had. Once again, JSN looks unbelievable. Great stuff from him. And overall, really liked Seattle's offense minus the turnovers, right? Like there was against a tough defense. The CJ Stroud thing, though, it was very concerning. And when you bring up Baker Mayfield in 2019, for most of our listeners probably weren't listening then. We've referenced that before. But what happened, it is the whole quarterback development conversation is an interesting one, Sam, because we always say it's not linear, right? It doesn't mean you don't always start here and then in year 2 you get better, in year 3 you get better. We know it just doesn't happen. Sometimes there were clean narratives like Josh Allen, who had a rookie year and then he built on it and then he goes to the moon, becomes a superstar by year 3 and has not left, right? He's a superstar for life. The CJ Stroud conversation, it's like, all right, we had one of the best rookie seasons we've seen. Last year, he took a step back. The offensive line took a step back, and you think about how much the situation dictates things. The Baker thing that you reference was because things weren't great in front of him, he played differently. He played peeking over his shoulder. He started looking at the rush. His accuracy took a hit. And it wasn't even as drastic as what we're seeing from Stroud. It was just worse. And I think we're seeing that from Stroud. In this game, not handling pressure, working backwards against pressure. When he finally had a clean pocket, he had Jaden Higgins open by 2 steps on a go ball and overthrew him. He had back-to-back overthrows in these comeback attempts. Stroud looks completely off right now, at least in this game against a fierce Seattle defense.
Yeah, I mean, you develop bad habits when you have a really bad offensive line in front of you. And look, it can be as bad as, I mean, the classic example of an offensive line that's so bad it basically breaks the quarterback is David Carr, way back in the day for the expansion Houston Texans. That's like the turn of the century. But that was an offensive line that was so terrible that a young quarterback basically never had a chance. And his career effectively got ended by that. The line was so bad. David Carr didn't work out, and he goes down as just an unsuccessful NFL quarterback. But you also get offensive lines where they weren't permanently damaging. I mean, Baker Mayfield is now, up until last week, or up until this week, he was an MVP frontrunner. And maybe he will be again by the end of the season. So you have a number 1 overall pick that's capable of playing at an MVP level, but for a period of his career, the offensive line, and especially his left tackle, was so bad that he was developing bad habits, that he was playing badly, even when pressure didn't exist, because he just lost all faith in the offensive line. He's like, I no longer trust that on any given drop back, my left tackle is not going to be beat like a drum, and there's going to be pressure coming from that side. Stroud is now reaching that territory, I think, with this Houston offensive line, where I don't think this is permanent. I think we've seen too much good from CJ Stroud already, but it's clearly affecting him. And again, even on the plays where there isn't terrible pressure, he doesn't trust it anymore. And that's the biggest problem. Whatever about how bad the offensive line is to begin with, when the quarterback doesn't trust it, even on the plays where it holds up, now you've got real issues because now he's playing like he's under pressure all of the time, even when he isn't.
Yeah, and look, he faced pressure as a rookie, not as much, clearly not as much. A lot of the best stuff that they did that year, though, they'd scheme up some downfield shots. They had Tank Dell down the field. You got Nico Collins involved. But he also did handle pressure. What I loved about Stroud in his rookie season, almost to the point that I wanted to reevaluate my own QB evaluation process, his pocket mechanics were outstanding. His footwork was outstanding. His accuracy on his second and third reads and getting there was really good, Stroud. And when you lose that, when you lose the footwork, the platform to throw accurately, to avoid pressure, to handle pressure, that's what you're losing right now. That was Stroud's game, Sam, right? That was his game. My biggest gripe with Stroud as a rookie was don't try to play like Mahomes or Josh Allen too much. Don't try to play outside of structure. And he made some really nice out-of-structure plays that year. And my biggest complaint was don't do it too much. Make it just a complementary piece because your strength is in the pocket, maneuvering the pocket,
right,
throwing the ball on time, and when you're not on time on your first or second read, getting to a third or fourth read if you need to, but doing it really mechanically sound. And if Stroud loses his mechanics, if he loses his footwork, if he loses his feel, he's not good enough at the outside, out of structure stuff. He was fine at that, but that's got to be 1 or 2 plays a game. And so that's where, bad habits are developing. He's losing his foundation and his base. And this started last year. And it's like when you face pressure, if you just bump up the pressure 5 to 10%, it has a massive effect on just what you're seeing and how you're reacting to it, and then how it affects non-pressured plays, as you're saying.
It's also it's a dangerous world to live in. When you're trying to play outside of structure or when things are broken down, it's an inherently riskier and less efficient way of playing football. So even when the quarterback is as good as it gets, if you're talking about Josh Allen or Mahomes or Lamar Jackson, and Caleb Williams is running through this as well now as a former number 1 overall pick. You don't want to live in that world all the time. You want to have it there, and you want to be able to tap into that when you can. But if you're forced into that as the default setting, you've got problems. Even if, like, the guy plays at the peak of his ability the entire time, then doesn't start developing bad habits, it's just not where you want to be, and it's where the Texans and Stroud are being forced to live right now.
One more piece of this conversation I want to add. So remember, let's go back 2 years ago. The Dolphins are dropping 70. Stroud's having this incredible rookie season. Brock Purdy's bringing the 49ers to the Super Bowl. And so we always look at league trends and everything. What was the trend? That year, Brock Purdy, Tua, and C.J. Stroud were 1, 2, and 3 in yards per attempt in the National Football League. What did they have in common? Friends of Kyle. It was either Kyle's calling plays or Bobby Slowick, his protege, or Mike McDaniel, his other protege. And it was like, all right, this is the Shanahan scheme is the one consistent system that has elevated quarterbacks with seemingly average to slightly above average tools historically, but elevated them to be highly efficient. Yeah? That was what was happening in the league 2 years ago. And now you have Tua falling apart a little bit, C.J. Stroud struggling, Brock Purdy's been hurt, but hasn't played the same. That's not necessarily the point. But the fear, I think, for Texans fans is Tua got paid. We're almost to the we got to pay C.J. Stroud conversation right now. And I go back. I'm not trying to go back and convince myself that my pre-draft take was correct, but I do remember bringing up Derek Carr, not David, as a comp for C.J. Stroud, where this rough, hey, when things are going well and he's got a good pocket, I like the way he throws the ball. When he's under pressure, I could see some volatility to his game, much like a Carr. And remember the Carr conversation, right? There's half the people are like, this guy can throw it, give him some opportunities, give him some playmakers, give him an offensive line, he'll be good. And then the other people are like, hey, he's not carrying the team, he can't elevate the Raiders when he needs to. We'll always go back and forth. Are we at that point with Stroud? There's no perfect comps, but I was a little fearful of that comp after year one. I was like, wow, Stroud's way better than that. But now he's come back down to earth and been a little bit more susceptible to everything around him.
I mean, the bigger concern for me is they still feel every bit as lost on that offensive line as they've been since the start of this. Oh, the offensive line's not great. Let's start trying to fix that, right? Obviously, trading away the Laramie Tunsil thing, it was a decision. It didn't look particularly great at the time. The sales pitch for that was, but behind the scenes in the locker room, he's not a good character, so we got to get rid of him. Okay, fine. But just in terms of on-field personnel, you now have a left tackle that's a problem. You're voluntarily, they're out here saying, we're deliberately rotating at guard because we think both guys are better with, limited snap count. I mean, basically, that's just saying neither one of these guys has any business being on the field, and we think somehow it works better if we just, as soon as we get tired of one guy, we'll put in the other guy, and then we get tired of him. That's
snap
crazy.
Count at guard doesn't sound great.
I mean, look, you don't do that.
It's not like you get tired,
Right. You don't do that if you think either one of the guys should be a starter, right? This is the only reason you would possibly come to the conclusion that both these guys should be on a pitch count is if you could only tolerate so many snaps from each one of these guys in a game before you get so angry you just have to put in the next guy. So consequently, we're just going to keep them both rotating in and out. So that's a problem. You look at this offensive line, you're like, they might still only have one viable starter of the group. And that would be fine if they hadn't already swung, multiple times in adding talent to this group. And look, maybe, Aaron Ursary, the rookie, maybe he'll improve. But whilst it is, the target is only average, right? Our creep back toward average mantra, that's all they need to do. But there are some times where you have an offensive line, it's there's one viable player here. And it just seems so far away. Average seems so far away.
No, I mean, average is tough to attain. It doesn't. Sometimes if you do have 4 average players, that doesn't equal average. You know what I mean? That it's a difficult thing to attain when you're starting with one of the worst offensive lines in the league, and then you have to call plays to protect them, and it's got to be a lot of moving the pocket and play action and everything. I know we're spending a lot of time on the Texans, and we do sometimes spend a lot of time on the losing team, but it's all right, they're sitting here at 2-4. as a hater of so many teams this year, Sam. Like so many of our comments on our team videos, our reviews, are how much hate we have for all those teams. I can't be accused of that. I keep buying into the Texans every single week.
Yeah,
right? No Texans hate from me. I keep buying in. Like, they're going to figure this out. I love this defense. They're going to get better offensively, and they keep letting me down.
I suggested that this team was fairly convincingly going to get wrecked by Indy, and you were horrified by that.
Yeah, I think there's so much more in Houston. And maybe I'm buying into C.J. Stroud from 2 years ago and that he can overcome the line and Nico Collins and the rookie receivers that they're not using often enough. But, I think they're underachieving for the second straight year.
I mean, I don't think they necessarily underachieved last year. But last year is an indication of how much they can win with a terrible offensive line still. But that was, the analysis on them coming into the season was, look, there's a lot of good. Stroud is good. I believe the receivers that they have are good. Like, there's so much good there. It could all be undermined by the offensive line. And at the moment it is. And that it's being undermined enough to the point where none of the rest matters.
And then credit to the Seahawks, the way they played with Josh Jobe on the outside. They're playing a lot of press coverage between him and Riq Woolen. And then Nick Emanwari, we've mentioned him a lot the last couple weeks. They're using him in and around the line of scrimmage. He had that one rep against Jalen Knoll, just staying with the 4-3 speed, running deep with him. And Emanwari's a big safety, a big box safety that they're moving around, using him in a Kyle Hamilton-like role in Mike McDonald's defense. Just having him added to the mix these last couple weeks has added, some energy and aggressiveness to the Seattle defense that, look, they had it earlier in the year, but it's been that much better with Emanwari in the lineup the last couple weeks. Yeah,
people like to call that type of player a joker, but he's a joker in the Heath Ledger Agent of Chaos type of way, right? They've just inserted this maniac into the middle of the defense that's capable of wrecking everything you want to do on offense.
Maniac's an endearing term in this case. Just to wrap this up too, NFC West now, Seattle Seahawks, Los Angeles Rams, and the San Francisco 49ers all at 5-2. The statement we both made coming into the season was, if any of these four teams in the West, including the Cardinals, won the division, wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
And we're starting to see some separation, at least from the Cardinals, but it is wide open with three teams sitting there at 5-2. We haven't seen the Seahawks and Rams play each other yet. Those should be some awesome matchups. So the West is shaping up to be pretty fun here, second half of the year.
Yeah, two of those teams felt like potential contenders anyway. And the Seahawks with Darnold, he's been pretty spectacular. Okay, this was as bad as he's played, and there were a couple of meltdown plays, even if the overall performance wasn't a meltdown. But that's propelled the Seahawks into that conversation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a lot like Darnold last year, I would say. He had avoided those disastrous plays to through week 6 or whatever. Still made some spectacular throws. Just got to cut back on the ones that let the Texans back into the game. Anything else on that?
Nope.
All right, let's get to the Shouty Shows.
I've thought about it very deeply.
I liked how he started it with, I've thought about this long and hard.
I trust the backup quarterback more than I do Dak.
This is why Skip Bayless is the master of the Shouty Show segment.
I can't do it anymore. It is year 6.
It's just a never-ending arms race of idiocy between loud, obnoxious people. We are the antidote to that.
I want to preface something right up top here. Yeah. I read a lot of the feedback, Sam.
Yeah.
Probably more than you. Read a lot of the feedback. Disclaimer here. Just because a comment or something from a show shows up on the Shouty Shows doesn't mean that we're making the declarative statement that show in particular is shouty, right? We had a couple people mention that about Chris Long last week. We're not saying the Chris Long take. It was just an interesting take we wanted to respond to. This is the segment to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, the Chris Long thing was, we wouldn't call that a Shouty Show either, but it was just a way of getting that segment.
I just want to put that out there up top. Some people they don't get the nuance all the time, and it's like, oh, I'm not listening because you called Chris Long a Shouty Show. It's like, nope, we just wanted to respond to his take, and we did it during this segment. Mm-hmm. All right, let's get to the first one, a Colts Super Bowl prediction.
Colts will win the Super Bowl. It's so cool. They're finally going to play somebody that's good. Beat the Broncos, okay? Just so we all kind of make this argument kind of disappear quickly. Mm-hmm. Chargers aren't going to let them just do that bullshit. Danny Dimes going to fight. Yeah, right. We're better than everybody. We're literally better than everybody. And we got 390-pounders deflecting balls and catching it. This guy cooks wings in his sink.
Oh, yeah.
And he's doing this to your favorite quarterback. Give me that. Bats it up in the sky, pushes a guy off him. Let me find that thing. Fingers and wrist tape. Then our entire team joins him. Everybody that is in L.A. from Indianapolis hits the field and celebrates with him. But whenever things like that are happening, you know good juju's on our side.
McAfee's show is an interesting one to categorize. Like, it's not strictly speaking a Shouty show, but there's elements of Shouty Show in there.
Yeah, I mean, they just make bold takes. I mean, even just like an overreaction Monday or whatever that they do. Like they're feeding into that.
I mean, he's in an interesting space in the sort of the whole new media landscape because he does like he's just an engaging personality that became crazy popular, and to the point where like legacy media is bringing him in because he's got the audience, right?
Yeah.
So you got this weird world where they're running this sort of like the format of that show is very like old school legacy media, but with nobody that's got any kind of legacy media.
Yeah, they're not
background.
They're not forcing Shouty Show stuff.
No,
at all.
But they're sort of running this like by the numbers, almost old school, talk show type of format. Except there's no like journalism background there. So it's very strange. You get this sort of like that's where you get. Let's just bring on J.J. Watt, have him spout bullshit, and then not really have any. Like a true journalistic backgrounded show would have done that and go, well, let's get the other side. Now, they did, admittedly, they played, some PFF podcasts to kind of theoretically give the balance, but they never went looking for like someone to, answer back to JJ. It's just like, well, we'll let JJ shout off and then we'll just go on. Like it's a weird world that they're occupying at the moment.
And then Pat plays this role, obviously, of former Colt, always roots for the Colts, like when the Anthony Richardson stuff happened last year, it was more, taking it to heart, taking it personally. So now that the Colts are doing well, of course, he's like, yeah, we're doing it. We're going to the Super Bowl.
Right. I mean, as a former Colt, that makes sense.
It's also unbelievable. So they also, I don't really watch Mac. I just don't want to watch. I don't watch a lot of current media right now. But, follow them on social media and see stuff pop up. They comment on everything. They cover baseball. They cover hockey. Like the legacy media isn't even covering those things like they used to, but they bring in people to talk about everything. And the fact that Pat can do that, not that he has to have intimate knowledge of every single topic, because it's a lot of feeding people who do, but to be able to do that, co-host Game Day, still do the wrestling thing with WWE. It is. I say this a lot, but it's unbelievable how good Pat McAfee is at what he does.
Yeah, no, he's awesome. I mean, the fact that the show is as huge as it is kind of says what you need to know. I think it's fascinating that once you get to a certain size, like you can be whatever your shtick is, whether it's what McAfee's doing, Barstool, whatever. Like once you reach a certain size, I kind of wonder if there then becomes this responsibility to do things in a certain way. Rogan's run into this as well, like where Rogan suddenly became politicized and all of a sudden it's like, well, now you've got to start thinking about who you're bringing on the show, right? Do you have a responsibility with untold millions of people watching to actually start to filter or, critically examine who you're bringing on in the first place as a responsibility to your audience before you've even talked to them? It's like just the act of bringing a guy on is something you now need to start thinking about when you are of a certain size. Whereas, previously you were small enough that you could go, I just bring on whoever I want to talk to. It doesn't matter who they are, left, right, crackpot, smart person. It doesn't matter. Like I'm interested in this person. I'm going to talk to this person. That's how it goes. But once you reach a certain size, it almost becomes like a social responsibility thing of now you actually need to start thinking about this. So with McAfee, once you reach a certain size, do they need to start thinking about, well, if JJ is going to say one thing, we need to bring on the other side. If some other guy is going to have an axe to grind, do we need to find the counter to that? Like, do we need to start behaving like legacy media because there's some kind of social or audience responsibility aspect to it?
You're just like Bert, gatekeeping journalism and media.
I mean, look, media's done a lot of bad things. There's a reason that all these non-traditional media things are growing and getting huge, but and they're the architect of their own demise in a large way. But
well, then legacy media had to just become their own one-sided thing, and it's
Right.
like, all right, I'm going to find my own.
But like back in
audience
so
that
here's
only
the
cares
thing.
about what I say.
I was on a podcast and they were sort of talking about all this stuff like Shouty Show world and how social media is playing into it. And how we're basically all going to hell in a handcart. But this is not a new thing, right? Like this idea of negativity sells. I mean, there's a newspaper adage as old as time that's like, if it bleeds, it leads, right? The most negative, awful thing you can think of has always been number one in the nightly news or in the headlines. That's not a new thing. But what stopped the world from just being nothing but that was some kind of like theoretical journalistic ethics and all that kind of stuff, right? But it turns out that there was nothing actually tying that. Like that wasn't a thing that existed in stone. It was just, there was like a thing that said, okay, this industry has to do this. Like we owe it to the people to be straight down the middle and, tie ourselves to some kind of broader, greater good. And then somewhere along the line, that got eroded and everyone decided, you know what, it doesn't really matter. Let's just chase the numbers and the money. So that's fine. Like that doesn't exist anymore because actual journalists like threw that away. But the new media had none of that in the first place. Like they never cared about any of that stuff. So we're in a world where old school legacy journalists have thrown it away because they're just chasing the numbers and the money to try and keep up with the new media. And new media never were grounded in that in the first place. So basically everybody has abandoned any form of integrity.
Free for all. Let's go. We'll break down NFL insiders and how they operate.
Right, same thing, right? Theoretically, those guys are all journalists, and yet right now the transparency with which they are just bought and paid for by agents and anybody else that will feed them information. Like it has become transactional. In order to do my job, i.e. be first with a piece of news, I need to tweet whatever an agent tells me to tweet so that he'll put me on the group text when he has some news.
Is your integrity for sale? If big agencies,
I mean, look, everyone's got a number.
Same, agree. Hear that? CAA, athletes first.
Luckily,
we'll carry your water.
As much as we have some integrity right now, we're not large enough that it's become a moral dilemma yet. Nobody's come in with a thing saying, "Hey, I'm going to need you to do this, and here's a bag of money." We're not big enough where that's become a moral dilemma.
Door's right there. If you want to come in and drop the bag of money, though, we're open to the concept.
Then it becomes a debate, right? At the moment, it's not a debate because
where's the number?
Nobody's throwing a large enough stack of cash.
How big's the dollar sign on the back?
Right.
We'll see. All right. Let's get to what do we have next? Something next.
But Jordan Love, man, I got no love for Jordan Love, and I've never have. And why? Yes, he's got unbelievable ability, and we'll see some amazing plays from him. But at the end of the day, do I trust Jordan Love? No, I don't, because I think he's going to take – and he doesn't do it. Statistically, he says, oh, no, he doesn't turn the ball over. Oh, yes, he does. The biggest moments, he'll turn it over.
Rex Ryan does not love Jordan Love, our boss's pick for MVP, Mike Tannenbaum.
Oh, dude, Rex Ryan is Shouty Show work. I'll say that for a start. Rex Ryan is fast becoming the most irritating Shouty Show person because everything he says just sounds like it's coming from a hurt ex-girlfriend. Like everything he says is like, dude, why so angry? Like, why are you so upset at these people? What did Jordan Love ever do to you? And that's independent of whether or not he's correct or not, which, I mean, in this instance...
Did he just attack Mike McDaniel in the last week, too? I didn't click on it, but I think I saw that.
Yeah. He's attacking everybody. His entire shtick is just being mad at everybody, regardless of what's out there.
Works for Mad Dog.
Yeah, and he even acknowledged, like, statistically, there's no evidence for this. In fact, statistically, Jordan Love is very careful with the football.
Well, he's saying in crunch time. He's saying when you're down, when you're up against the Browns.
Right, but he has something like...
in the fourth quarter with 3 minutes to go, you're going to turn it over. So it's when he's going to do it.
Yes, but I don't think there's any real statistical evidence for that either. Like, Jordan Love's turnover rate in the last 20-odd games or something is nuts. Like, it's a very difficult argument to craft if you're Rex Ryan.
I mean, tweeted out the other day, we're in a golden age of touchdown to interception ratios. Like, if you want to put your favorite quarterback out there and say, look at this 11-2 touchdown to interception ratio, there's like 12 guys right now that are 14-2, 17-2, 10-1. Here's one for you.
Yeah?
Dylan Gabriel, 4 touchdowns, no picks.
Well, there you go.
Justin Fields.
That's an infinite touchdown interception
3
ratio.
The 2 best touchdown interception ratios are Dylan Gabriel and Justin Fields.
Who can't even complete a pass, according to his owner.
To either team. He can't complete a pass to either team.
It's true.
That's how good he is. He doesn't complete the ball to any. He's either running or getting tackled behind the line of scrimmage. Only tackles, no completions for Justin Fields.
The Mike Evans, thing where he's now hurt. He's potentially done for the year. He could even be done for his career.
Are we talking about him later?
Maybe, but what I want to say is, when every now and again there's a sort of thing that comes up, and it reminds you of the human aspect of all this, right? All these guys are people. You tend to sort of talk about them in abstractions. And then when a guy comes up from the Hall of Fame, at least for me, it becomes an awkward dance to sort of discuss reasonably and objectively the man's Hall of Fame credentials, whilst at the same time wanting to acknowledge the great career that he's had to even be in the conversation. And there's a human aspect to that. Like when you watch those Hall of Fame videos of, the guys rocking up on the doorstep with the congratulations, you made it, and they all break down in tears and stuff. Like, it means so much to these people as people. Rex Ryan is the opposite of that. Like, Rex Ryan he attacks everybody as if I'm never going to talk. Rex Ryan is a human Twitter account, right? Like, what is it? Long string of letters, bunch of numbers. That's Rex Ryan on TV, right? He's talking about all these people like he never has to meet them face to face, or they never get to call him out on his bullshit. And he just spews like a never-ending stream of hate. Again, regardless of whether or not it's true, there's just a way of being a person.
Do you think he was like that when him and Mike T were having meetings about players?
I honestly don't know.
Because he's always spoken his mind, obviously. I
feel no. I think this is a product. Again, it feels like a jilted ex-girlfriend, where that person may have always been crazy, but the jilted part was what turned them into an absolute lunatic. Like, I feel like Rex Ryan was always, out there, spoke his mind, said his truth, but somewhere along the line, his truth became bitter and twisted.
There's also it's a weird career for Rex Ryan, by the way, where I thought he did a really good job coaching with the Jets.
Yeah.
Took them to 2 AFC championships, and they did it. He did a good job with, no offense to Mark Sanchez, the quarterback here, but Mark Sanchez wasn't a great quarterback. We talk a lot about quarterback-driven league, and you go to 2 AFC championships with Sanchez. So Rex did a good job. I almost feel like he got screwed over because he got fired by the Jets and then immediately gets the Bills job. And a lot of times when you go right into the next job, it's like, it's not good for either side. It's like, were you actually the right person for this? Was it just for both sides? It's almost like if he took a year or 2 off and then rebooted and then came back, maybe he would have had a better opportunity or gone to a better job. Because I think he's a good coach, but then his second opportunity happened like that. And once you fail at that or it doesn't go well, who's going to give you a third opportunity?
That's the thing. It's like, that's the real key is there's a lot of retread coaches out there. We're seeing people bounce back and forth. Like, all of a sudden, Matt Nagy is a favorite for a job again. It's like, you can get a second chance almost regardless of how bad the first one goes. And Rex Ryan's first one went pretty well. So you'll definitely get a second shot. But once you screw up the second one, it's really hard to get a third shot. Like, 2 strikes and NFL teams are like, you know what? What are the chances the third one goes well? Nah, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. Or the other way around. So I think you're right. Like, whether or not it was smart to jump into that second job, once the second job went south, the NFL is like, all right, thanks, Rex, but you're done now.
Yeah.
And that's probably where the bitterness came. Oh, screw me? Fine. I'm going to take notes and start firing back at all of you.
Shouty Shows segment has become us psychoanalyzing the talent and how they've gotten here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we got a reaction to the Joe Flacco trade.
Was it me?
How could you do that, Andrew? How could you do it? Why on earth did you feel the need to trade this guy to a division opponent for a 5th-round draft pick? Fireable offense. That is a fireable offense. I want to know how much longer the owner's going to watch this crap, because the fans have had it. We deserve better. You're worried more about your stadium than you are your football team. That's the perception, Jimmy. And you allow these people to do this? You have the worst offense in the league. Your GM screwed this quarterback thing up like I've never seen in my life. I've never seen anything like it. Kids that play Madden could have done a better job. Truly. That's not hyperbole. It's a joke.
Well, I will say that's 100% full Shouty show.
That was a good Shouty show. That's good.
Legit shouting. You know, it's a hot take. It's everything. It's all you need. It's all you want to see in a Shouty Show segment.
I just disagree.
Yeah, I mean, look.
I think Joe Flacco's success last Thursday night has nothing to do with the Browns.
Well, it has a little bit to do with it. I mean, I've already said I was wrong on the Joe Flacco thing. Joe Flacco's game last Thursday, on its own, basically justified Cincinnati's side of that trade and saying, look, there was a shot that this could happen. However unlikely, there was a shot that this could manifest, and that keeps them alive for long enough that it's worth doing. The flip side of that, though, is, like, let's say, whatever you want to put your percentage on. In my opinion, that was like a 1 percentile outcome for Joe Flacco, based off the last, 5 years of his career, that to get the last 2 games from him back-to-back, I think is like a 1 percentile range of outcomes. It's the 99th percentile of what he could achieve after getting traded away. Now, you might disagree and say, no, it's 5, it's 10, whatever the number is, right? But in my opinion, that was like a 1 percentile or a 99th percentile, a 1% outcome. Therefore, the flip side of that is, from the Browns' perspective, you would have felt 99% comfortable of trading away Joe Flacco with no consequences. There's no downside here. We've already benched him. Right? The rest of this season, we're riding with a pair of rookies with Dylan Gabriel and then presumably at some point Shedeur Sanders. There's nothing to be gained from having Joe Flacco remaining on this team other than, whatever veteran leadership you think he brings in the locker room. But if somebody's willing to trade us something, yeah, sure, we'll take the free upgrade in draft status. I'm 99% confident that that's the correct move. And the 1% is the thing that hit.
All right, I'm gonna start to psychoanalyze myself this whole thing, right? What's happening on Browns radio and the Shouty Show take here. Was Tony Rizzo here this mad a week ago, 2 weeks ago? When this happened,
I mean, he's a Browns radio host. He's probably been this mad for 25 years.
That's a fair point. Did he anticipate this? Did you know that Joe Flacco was going to go?
Right, if you weren't saying that at the time, it's a bit hard to then go, 2 weeks later, you're an idiot.
So there's 2 points to be made here. Either you're saying this 2 weeks ago and look, Joe, because you keep saying, there's no chance that Joe Flacco did this. But if we do rewind his career 5 years, we've said this before, man. He elevated the Jets. He had rolled out of bed and threw for 400 for the Jets. He elevated the Colts for a minute. He took the Browns to the playoffs.
But he never
2 years ago. I know he threw the ball into harm's way, but there was a certain level of aggressive.
That's why it's a 1%.
Elevated the off. Let's get out of we like to analyze players play by play and the whole thing. Get out of that for a second. And just say the A/B analysis of the QB before performed worse than the QB.
But that's the
Joe
difference.
Flacco when he came in.
Came in. You can't. The turnover thing is important because that's the difference between what he's just done in the last 2 weeks and what he's done in the previous stops, where he's come in and the offense is sparked because Joe Flacco can absolutely push the ball down the field and throw it all over the yard, and he still has an arm and all those kinds of things. The thing is, if you had told me before that Joe Flacco is going to come in, he's going to throw for 300 yards back-to-back games as the first thing he does in Cincinnati, I would have had no trouble whatsoever believing that. Yeah, absolutely, he can put up 300 yards with those receivers. If you had told me that he could do that whilst putting the ball in harm's way not once in 2 games, I would say 0 chance. And that's why it's different. He didn't just spark the offense. He provided a material difference from what was there before because no longer was the ball being turned over or in harm's way. And that is the huge difference. Yeah, obviously there was a spark as well, but the thing that made they could win that game against Pittsburgh is he didn't turn the ball over. Rodgers did twice. Now, one of them wasn't his fault, but he turned the ball over twice. Flacco didn't at all, and so they win a game that they shouldn't have won.
So my point on this whole thing is if a couple of weeks ago you're like, man, you just got rid of this guy, if we just give him more time, Browns are going to, with the Browns defense, they're just going to make a run, right? That's one side of it. The other side of it is once he goes to Cincinnati and you see what Joe Flacco is capable of behind a bad offensive line or an offensive line that had been struggling, But, of course, with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, if your next take is, well, Andrew Berry in the Browns just did not put Joe Flacco. They have not put their quarterback in position to succeed.
Right.
Because their line is as bad, if not worse, than Cincinnati, or at least in similar range. Remember, they were in the composite pass blocking rankings. They were 31 and 32 at the time of this trade. And clearly the Browns don't have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. They don't have the playmakers. So if the criticism of Andrew Berry is you haven't created this environment for Joe Flacco to succeed, I can almost get on board with that. But it still comes down to, on the logical check the mic show here, we'd like to say, we're going to see both sides. The Bengals and Browns are in two different parts of their life cycle.
Of course.
I know Browns fans don't want to hear we're in the middle of a rebuild for the 28th straight
that's why
year.
It's not an even.
But that's where they are.
Yeah, it's not an even decision because for Cincinnati's perspective, it almost doesn't even matter. Like Joe Flacco's played amazingly through 2 games, and I think you would be crazy to imagine that it's not possible that the next week he throws 3 interceptions, right? Like that's equally as possible as he does it again and backs up another game with a perfect outing, right? So from Cincinnati's perspective, that doesn't really matter. They've already bought themselves time. Like you're in this world where you can slide below 500 a bit, and every one win buys you a couple of games of life, to keep your season alive. So from the Bengals' perspective, winning last Thursday already made the trade worth it because you've extended how long the season's going to live for a while, right? From the Browns' perspective, if Flacco comes back next week and has an absolute nightmare and implodes, well, are you back to saying, okay, no harm, no foul? You know what I mean? From Cincinnati's perspective, if he plays like crap next week, it doesn't really matter. He'd already bought them a couple of extra weeks, and that's the job. From the Browns' perspective, if he shows up next week and looks terrible, looks like he did with Cleveland, well, do you go back going, okay, yeah, it was fine to trade him away,
I mean, I know it's tough to do. I assume it's tough to do weekly radio for a team that's rebuilding.
But how do you get that angry? Like, how do you allow yourself to? How do you allow the roller coaster to be that pronounced? That like in 1 week you are so angry that you're shouting at the microphone, calling for people's heads for like a minute straight. The next week, if he has a disastrous game, like what do you do? How do you climb back from that? How do you come back the next week and be like, yeah, okay, never mind. Carry on.
I mean, it's like the Jets fans being, oh, man, I can't believe this team's win this. Like, really? You can't
This is why I couldn't be a Shouty Show person because I couldn't, like, that in my brain wouldn't, I couldn't have that week to week. Like, where last week I was shouting against this thing, and then this week it's just like, yeah, that's fine now. I mean, even the Joe Flacco thing is, like, I feel like a guy, because in my opinion, and maybe I'm just wrong again, because in my opinion, that's like a 99th percentile range of outcomes that he's just hit in 2 weeks, regardless of what happens from here on in. I already feel like, someone that dismissed conspiracy theories from my entire life and just found like a lizard person crawling through my trash. It's like, wait, now everything in my, like, is the earth actually flat? Like everything, I'm reassessing everything I've ever thought in my life because of the Flacco
There's
thing.
levels to those things. But if you found a lizard person, maybe everything's true.
That's what I'm saying. Like, because Joe Flacco just had the 2-week run that he just had, I'm now questioning whether the earth is flat, whether there's an ice wall at the end of things. Like, I don't know what's true and what isn't anymore.
We have flat earth listeners. There's definitely few.
Yes.
In our group.
It feels like, when we said, what was the term we said before? Like, if you...
Don't.
This is not a high reasoning...
Don't talk down to our audience.
I'm not. I'm the opposite. I was saying that, if you're the type of person that believes X, Y, and Z, you're probably not into this show. This is not a show for... I forget what the line... We had a line for this last week or whatever. I don't feel like there's a huge Venn diagram between flat earthers and the show that we provide.
The inflection point, the Kirk Cousins inflection point, we're above... Our listeners are above the inflection point.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe there's one somewhere because there's one crazy lunatic everywhere. But I don't feel like there's a huge Venn diagram crossover between our show and flat earthers.
I remember Jason wants to add Woody Johnson's comment.
My neighbor wanted those as well. There's Woody Johnson talking about...
Your neighbor who tracked me down at the grocery store?
Yeah. He also wants you... Did you see... So there were multiple Woody Johnson. There was a Woody Johnson... is his comment about Justin Fields, basically saying, if we had a quarterback that could complete a pass, maybe Aaron Glenn would look good. There was a couple of crazy, Jets media world where one guy basically decided, he called out Woody Johnson and demanded a 30-minute sit-down to discuss the future of the New York Jets.
All right, let's see. We have an argument about Jackson Dart, and then we'll see if we can dig up the Woody Johnson
But anyway,
quote, or at least respond to
my
it.
neighbor wanted you, as someone who'd already thrown your hat in the ring as a Jets GM person, to also demand a 30-minute sit-down with Woody.
Oh, that's a good idea. Woody Johnson, I need 30 minutes. I will fix your franchise. I'm sure Mike T could set this up. I'll fix the franchise with the Jets. I already offered to last year, but, you know. All right, argument about Jackson Dart coming up here.
He did absolutely nothing in the second half of that game. I saw it with my own eyes. I even put down my last cocktail so I could let me be alert. I watch quarterbacks. I study quarterbacks, man. If you labeling this dude a superstar, then I don't know what the Bo Nix is.
He's a superstar because this Giants team was left for dead.
They still left for dead.
No, he is the reason why they are relevant.
They not relevant. They 2-4. Why are they last in the damn NFC?
They went in there.
Why is they relevant?
Is Jackson Dart not the answer in New York?
No.
He's not the answer?
If the answer is 2-4, then y'all standard is lower than mine.
He's just starting out. The
Your standard is lower than mine.
He's missing his number one receiver.
What's the result? I don't give a damn if you look great taking that test. You look absolutely amazing. You came studied and you had notes and you had your glasses on. If you fail that, you fail that.
What is his platform now? Because I remember
I don't know.
Aqib Talib, shockingly, his take. He had a take on the Mark Sanchez thing.
Just be careful.
And Aqib Talib's take was basically, you know, he could relate because it's really easy to go out one night and on your day off and get arrested. You know, wake up in the slammer. It was effectively so he could understand how Mark Sanchez got hammered and started a fight and got stabbed. It made perfect sense to Aqib Talib. You know, I mean, he's Aqib Talib's an interesting person and he's an interesting family. I mean, he's
be careful.
I'm just saying he's the good egg of the family based off previous incidents.
Yeah, I mean, you would if you just went out there and said that every quarterback is not the answer, you'd have a pretty good hit rate. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Sure.
Jackson, I mean, in a difficult situation in Denver, did Jackson Dart play a great second half? Definitely not. Threw the ball to the defense multiple times.
Yeah.
But he does have that Jameson level of volatility that's attractive because if you can lean into the highest, if a stretch of run leans into the high end of it, good stuff's going to happen.
I mean, also, just like the rest of the Giants, he had a pretty good 3 quarters and then a kind of meltdown in the fourth quarter. And even in the meltdown, there were a couple of plays there. I mean, he had the touchdown to stretch it out over the goal line deal. There were a couple of shots that he could have had that would have sealed the game. But when you consider what this Denver defense is and what it's done to other quarterbacks, the first 3 quarters against that were really impressive.
Let's follow the lines of logic here, too. Let's just do that for a minute for the Shouty Show analysis. We do a lot of A/B analysis in football, right? We saw this guy here, and bad stuff happened. Then we saw him over there, and good stuff happened. We've got some confounding variables here, Sam. Let's look at it quickly. Daniel Jones, with the Giants, had one good season. One good season. Everything else average to below average. And now goes to the Colts, and he's an MVP candidate, right? So it'd be easy to say, well, Daboll and the Giants, terrible situation. How could anybody survive there? Look what Daniel Jones is doing with the Colts. Or you could give all the credit to Shane Steichen and the Colts, however you want to do it. But that'd be an easy narrative if Jackson Dart hadn't come in and maybe elevated that team for a minute here. So you could use this in Jackson Dart's favor and be like, the same situation that MVP candidate Daniel Jones was in, and he couldn't get anything done. Jackson Dart's coming in and having some success offensively without his top wide receiver, with similar offensive line issues, what have you. So you're doing it against the Chargers and the Eagles, and then in Denver against this Denver defense. It's really impressive if you put it into that perspective for Jackson Dart. Even though in this particular game, yeah, you're part of the team that blew a massive lead in the fourth quarter.
It's also, I mean, comparing him to Bo Nix in the game and like, well, if Dart's a superstar, what's Bo Nix? I mean, Bo Nix did very little for 3 quarters. So he
did the inverse of Jackson.
That's the thing. So even just in those terms, right? Like, sure, the fourth quarter is kind of more important because that's the end of the game, but the first 3 quarters are, significantly more sample size. So even just how do you weigh that, right? A guy that was really good for 3 quarters and kind of melted down the fourth versus a guy that did nothing for 3 quarters and then did really well in the fourth. Like, obviously, the guy that did well in the fourth won the game and did enough to be the better to win the head-to-head battle, right? But what is more important, 3 quarters versus 1, even if the fourth quarter is when everything is determined? I don't know if there's a sensible answer to that because, like, if you're trying to predict what's going to happen going forward, which this is, which guy is for real, like, I don't know that there's a clean answer to 3 quarters versus 1 when the 1 was more important.
If you didn't see it, we did have Justin Pugh on the show last week, former first rounder for the Giants, doing some great work in the content space as a former player, getting out there on Thursday nights and just having some fun, being a fan as a former player. But him mentioning what it's like playing in New York and the microscope and everything, it is really true, man. It is really true. Like, if this was happening in other cities, what Jackson Dart's like, nobody's calling for Jackson Dart's job. He's done after 4 starts. Like, he's not good. It's probably not happening in other cities. There's some truth to that. Speaking of New York, by popular request here in the chat, we do have Woody Johnson's comments to add here.
What's your confidence level in Aaron to turn it around?
Well, it looks like he's turning around parts of it. You know, it's hard when you have a quarterback with, with a rating that we've got. You know, he has the ability, but something just is not jiving. But if you look at any head coach with a quarterback like that, you're going to see similar results if you go across the league. You have to play consistently with, at that position, and that's what we're going to try to do.
This was hot on the heels. I think it might have been Burt Breer. I forget where I saw it, but there was some article written recently that was talking about how, one of the notable aspects of Woody Johnson and Aaron Glenn time at the moment is that how much Woody Johnson had been hands off, just, letting Glenn do his thing. Like, well, you kind of undermine that quite a bit if you then say to the media, quarterback stinks. Then there was more, like there was another line in there somewhere of him literally saying, like, if our quarterback could just complete a pass. Like, it's just a fairly wild thing. Like, these are media-savvy people. This is not like an unguarded comment that just gets taken out of context. Like, he understands what he's doing when he puts that out there, which is to say, you are putting your head coach in an awkward situation because you have just declared as the owner that the current quarterback who we just paid $30 million guaranteed to, or whatever it is, cannot keep the job. Like, he's not good enough to be the quarterback of this team, and you've just put that out there publicly. That ties the hands of the head coach, who now can't really stick with him as the quarterback, even if he wanted to.
I would be way too logical to even be in one of these positions. Because you're sitting here with no wins as the Jets.
I mean, he's right? Like, that's the thing. It's correct. Right. But you have to understand as an owner what the ramifications of saying that out loud in front of a microphone are.
And just as a general process, when we go back to free agency, when we said, so somebody could call us out if they really wanted to, dig up and say that we liked the move by the Jets, and then cut out the reasoning. Because the reasoning why we liked this move, I said, was, well, what else are you going to do? Like, what's your other option, Jets? You're picking at 7 overall. Everybody likes Cam Ward as the number 1 overall pick. At the time, nobody liked people like Shedeur Sanders as the number 2 pick, so you probably weren't even going to get a shot. Like, you could argue maybe they should have drafted Shedeur. Maybe that would give them some hope, and that would have solved everything. Maybe they should have. I'm sure there's plenty of Jets fans saying, well, we should have drafted Jackson Dart. Fine. What was the alternative besides a bridge quarterback contract for Justin Fields, where the outcomes could have easily become, promising guy where they run a lot and they're feisty and they win a bunch of games, which is what we said was possible. Maybe I leaned into that too much this offseason. And the other option was, well, he's just as bad as he was at the other 2 stops, and you're not very good because you don't have a great team, because you're transitioning from the go-for-it Aaron Rodgers era to whole new regime where we're starting from scratch. Like, what were the realistic expectations for the Justin Fields-led Jets this year.
And look, it's clearly not all Fields. I mean, this same quarterback went 4-1 last year as a starter, albeit for a team that then decided they didn't really, weren't that invested in bringing him back, or at least certainly had a line.
I feel like you can't even use anything that happens in Pittsburgh as a proxy.
But the point is,
you're going to plop any quarterback in there, and they're going to be 9-8 or 8-1 at worst.
He's right in that with a quarterback playing the way Justin Fields is playing, there's basically no way of winning football games, right? The number one, I would say, clearly Fields is capable of more than that, and you've seen it last year with a winning record. You've seen it before. Like, he's been better than this. And then really the biggest thing, though, is you just can't say that as the owner, because you're putting your head coach in a bind. Like, if you do want Aaron Glenn to be the best thing that he can be for the New York Jets, you need to step off, not open your mouth, and let him work.
But he just benched Fields and is probably going to go with Tyrod anyway. So.
But now he can't. But now you've forced it. Like, now he has to do that. Now he can't do anything else because you've publicly stated that this quarterback can't function.
Maybe he's been waiting for him to be. He was calling for his benching probably weeks ago, like he did with Rodgers.
But this is like, you ask the difference between like well-run franchises, good owners, and bad owners. Like, this is a version of bad ownership. Even if you are trying to keep the hands off, let the guy work, do the good things, this undermines it by going out there and then forcing his hand by saying, I don't think our quarterback can play.
Anything else on the Jets?
Yeah.
Or the Giants?
No, I think we're good for those.
Done with Shouty Shows?
Done with Shouty Shows.
All right, let's talk about Fanduel. Getting you ready for the NFL season with an offer you don't want to miss. New customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet, you bet $5. If it wins, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. You could build parlays, you could bet player props, ride the live lines, whatever your style. FanDuel has you covered. The NFL season's here. The only question is, are you ready to play? FanDuel.com/CTM. That's where you go. FanDuel.com/CTM. Download the FanDuel app today and get started. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino. Or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Today, we're talking FanDuel's odds for the AFC North winner. It's been a hot topic for you these last couple weeks because it was fascinating when the one-win Ravens were the favorites. The Steelers overtook them for a minute when they were 4-1. But now that the Steelers are 4-2, here's what FanDuel has for the AFC North winning odds. Who's going to win the division? Baltimore Ravens plus 135. The favorites to win the division. Pittsburgh Steelers plus 130. Cincinnati Bengals plus 450. Cleveland Browns plus 2,200. It's very close at the top between the Ravens and the Steelers, then the Bengals, and of course the Browns, the long shot. So the Steelers still slight favorites.
Yeah.
But a 4-2 team and a 1-5 team, almost identical odds here.
That was the thing. They lost the game, obviously, to Cincinnati unexpectedly. They were expected to win that game by pretty much everybody. And you're like, well, immediately, if it was that close to begin with, they're gonna drop into second favorite again. And it didn't quite happen. It stayed very close. It is still remarkable. I mean, this Baltimore Ravens team, they've got one win. Their defenses look like one of the worst in the NFL, and their offense was not playing particularly well either before Lamar Jackson got hurt. And then, of course, he has been hurt. So, Vegas is still expecting this one-win team to be basically a coin flip to win the division. They are, 3 games back of first place in the division. But obviously one huge aspect of that is they get to play everybody in the division. Like, as bad as Baltimore's been so far, they haven't played Pittsburgh yet. They've got them twice. They've got Cincinnati twice. So 2 of the teams ahead of them in the standings, they account for 4 of their games. And neither one of those teams looks particularly, compelling. I mean, Pittsburgh, you might have said, okay, if they'd gone out there and stomped Cincinnati, sure. But they didn't. They lost to a Joe Flacco-led Cincinnati team. So You can't be massively confident in them. And so, the door is there for Baltimore to go on a run and claw this back.
Our old friends at PFF have their strength of schedule to date and then remaining. Baltimore Ravens, second hardest schedule to date, 26th remaining. And then you have a team like Pittsburgh. Where are they? To date, the second easiest schedule, 31st. Right? Just ahead of the Patriots as far as easy schedules go. And then coming out, 11th most difficult schedule. So that's why these things happen, right? When Bill Parcells said, "You are what your record is," I disagree.
Yeah,
what your record is and who you played and how well you've played. Those are the best things that predict how you're going to do in the future. And so there's a lot of reasons, believe it or not, for optimism for the Ravens, which is this multi-year history of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry and the offensive line and the playmakers and their defense playing good football and winning a lot of games. And they've absolutely underachieved to this point, but it should get easier.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they're going to do it.
Right.
It's just we're laying out the odds over their next 11 games. Like, would it surprise you if the 1-5 Ravens went 8-3? Of course not. And that would get you to 9 wins, which might win the division if Pittsburgh starts losing a couple games here.
I mean, even so they have a couple of, I think, difficult games left on the schedule in terms of a New England team that suddenly looks very good and a Green Bay Packers team on the road around Christmas time. So they might need to get a couple wins in the bank before you get to that very, very end of the season. But, I mean, the next run is Chicago, Miami, Minnesota on the road, Cleveland on the road, the Jets, the Bengals. I mean, that they could reasonably expect to be undefeated in that run, right? That could be 6 wins to add to this 1-win team. So all of a sudden you could be 7 and, 4 or 5? And things immediately look completely different. Like, you have a winning record at the end of that run. Now, look, Minnesota's not necessarily a joke. I mean, none of those are slam dunks. None of those are gimmies. Chicago's defense just looked fantastic. But just on paper right now, you would say that is a 6-game stretch that they could go undefeated in.
And they're coming off a bye now. Not that doesn't. The bye is always funny. It's like, oh, we're going to fix everything in the bye. It doesn't always work that way, but if the defense can play a little bit better and Lamar Jackson gets back on course.
That's the thing. Lamar Jackson is coming back. That should change everything. Now, Lamar Jackson was not playing well in the 2 weeks before getting hurt and was playing not well in multiple different ways. That's concerning. If this rebooted Lamar Jackson and he's back to being one of the best players in the NFL, arguably the best player in the NFL, MVP Lamar, I don't even care that the defense is a sieve and it's going to give up 30 points every week. They're still in every single game. If he doesn't, though, their season is basically already done.
The other interesting one is the Bengals here at plus 450, coming off that win with the Steelers. Now, so you've got the division win, which is huge, just to get back in it. And as the Steelers' schedule gets more difficult, the Bengals play the Jets this week, then the Bears, then a bye. They play Pittsburgh again, so you have that head-to-head opportunity. They've got some tough games in there as well, but then they've got Miami, Arizona, Cleveland to finish the season. And, they're just trying to buy time to get Joe Burrow back. But these next few weeks could make it really interesting for Cincinnati. And then eventually they need to run into – they've got this stretch, November into December, at Baltimore versus Buffalo versus Baltimore.
Yeah.
3 straight weeks. So that's going to be the biggest stretch probably for the Bengals. But we might be sitting here 4 weeks from now being like the Bengals are a game out of first place, or, they're within striking range with the Steelers, including their game in mid-November where they play each other. So I think it's getting interesting in the division. Do you want to make a prediction here? Who comes out on top?
I mean, Cincinnati's season, I think, will come down to the 3 remaining games against Pittsburgh and Baltimore. Like, if they win 2 of those, I think they're in pretty good shape to actually end up with a record that could keep them very much involved in the last couple of weeks of the season. If they lose 2 of those, and then obviously 3 in either direction is even more so. If they lose 2 of those, I think their back's against the wall in terms of trying to keep this alive.
All right, I'll say Pittsburgh pulls it off here, despite the vibes being low. That's what happens. Vibes are low here. Mike Tomlin's going to go and make Lamar look bad in one game or something like they do once a year. So we'll say Pittsburgh pulls it off.
Yeah, I mean,
because they've just built a big enough lead that they'll survive.
Yeah, it's the fact that Lamar wasn't playing well before getting hurt that concerns me. I think the Ravens have a real shot at this because if he comes back and looks like the MVP, they can go on that kind of run given their schedule. If he doesn't look like that, though, it's already toast. They're just not. Their defense is so bad that there's no way of coming back from this. So I'll give Lamar the benefit of the doubt and say he's coming back as the MVP, and that's enough for them to overhaul this.
Wow. Get the Ravens. All right, let's get to one of my favorite segments of the week now. It's really fun here. Wednesday update time.
Now it's time for the Wednesday update, brought to you by the Cincinnati Bugler.
So we just get to talk about everything here at the Bugler. Get to talk about everything. We'll start with Trey Wingo reporting.
Trey Wingo reporting?
What year is this? Sources, implies multiple sources, say that the Cowboys are inquiring about a trade for Raiders edge rusher Maxx Crosby. Now, the Raiders have come out and said, no, we're not trading Max. But
sat down with him to tell him that.
Not reportedly. We also have unconfirmed reports. There's no way of checking this. That Maxx Crosby is following various Cowboys on social media, which is usually a sign. That you're getting traded, I guess. Tale as old as time.
Yeah. The report, I forget who it was from, maybe Rap Sheet, who said, look, the Raiders have sat down Maxx Crosby to tell him they have no interest in trading him away. Yeah, they are. They're not shopping him and won't trade him. Tom Palazzolo there. While other teams are interested, the Raiders aren't interested in moving their best player, and Crosby wants to stay in Vegas. So they basically sat him down and said, yeah, look, people are calling, but we're not moving you. Like, you're our best player. We want you here. So I think that's probably accurate. That sounds pretty reasonable, that it makes sense that teams are calling about Maxx Crosby given the Raiders' season so far. And it also makes sense that they're not really interested in trading him away because he should be a cornerstone of that team. I do, however, think that it would be hilarious.
Funniest possible outcome.
Dallas trading for him with the same picks they gave up for Micah Parsons to bring in a player who also has a podcast would be absolutely hilarious.
As a funniest possible outcome guy, I think that's what you need.
Particularly because, you've already seen it yesterday. Like, there's a bunch of Cowboys fans out there would be justifying that by saying, yeah, well, he's a lot cheaper. Like, yeah, he's a lot cheaper because you screwed around Micah Parsons for a year and a half instead of paying him. Like, the reason that contract is so much is because you screwed him around for that long. It shouldn't have been. Like, nobody was saying inevitably Micah Parsons is going to be the best paid defensive player in the NFL by like $8 million a year or whatever it was by the time he ended up signing that deal. Like, you could have signed him to a much cheaper contract.
I will say, though, let me look. What's Crosby making? You would save a lot of money versus Parsons.
Yes, but versus the contract that Parsons ended up with, not the contract that Parsons should have had.
But even just trading for someone where the bonus ends up getting paid up front already, because you're talking about Crosby's cap numbers are under 30, and you're not paying any of the bonus with the trade. You would be saving. It's an interesting, even though it's not going to happen, Sam. It is an interesting dynamic. If you straight up traded Micah Parsons for Maxx Crosby, you could make that case because of the discrepancy in money. You could make that case. Now, I think Parsons is a better player. He's younger. Nothing against Maxx Crosby. Parsons is a better player, in my opinion. Crosby's awesome, but he's older. But you could make the case that like Crosby and say $15 million a year versus Micah Parsons is a decent deal to make if you were the Cowboys. You could make that case.
Yeah. I just think any discussion of that contract has to begin with the fact that the number for Micah Parsons right now that's a Dallas problem. Like, that this is an example of why you sign players early. Like, you sign Maxx Crosby early-ish, and suddenly $35 million a year looks like a steal because the number's now been pushed to 47 or whatever it was, right? It didn't look genius at the time. Nobody was like, oh, what an absolute team-friendly steal the Raiders have just gotten for Maxx Crosby. It was market value when he signed it. It's just that they got him done early enough that market value becomes cheap over time. Instead, Dallas does things the exact opposite way. And they're like, no, let's string this out as long as humanly possible. And then now you make this, and then use that as a reason that it's financially shrewd, right? Well, of course, the money we had to give Micah Parsons. We're saving money here. Like, yeah, but the only reason that number is what it is because you didn't pay him earlier.
I'm just saying, too late. I mean, it's too late to have that discussion now. But it's not happening. And so the Raiders coming off an awful loss against the Chiefs. I could see them wanting to hold on to Crosby. They have very few assets on the defense, especially after the Christian Wilkins debacle this offseason. Very few dependable assets on the defensive side. I just don't think you want to lose Maxx Crosby. And you already have your first-round pick, Ashton Jeanty, apparently, talking about the losing culture that the Raiders have.
Yeah, I mean, reasonable.
That's me queuing up an audio clip.
If we're being honest, it's been, losing culture around here for a long time. But
I couldn't hear it, but that's what Ashton Jeanty said. It's been a losing culture around here for a long time.
Let's hope other people heard it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's it's true. Accurate. Got to fix that. I mean, that was what Pete Carroll was supposed to be doing.
I know. I was not expecting.
That's what the Zorbs were for, in preseason.
Yeah. It is funny. I mean, every year we come in and what do we say? Like 28, 29 teams have some level of positive vibes around them, and then there's the Dolphins.
Yeah.
This year, which came true. And then there's, the Cowboys a couple years ago and whatever.
I mean, the vibes for the Raiders could not have been higher in August. And now
they were good, right? They were not that they had, like for me, not that they had their long-term plans, but they were a 7 or 8 win team in a really tough division. Like they were going to be competitive. But what happens is we're still at this zero-sum. There's only so many wins to go around.
Yeah.
Not everybody can win. And so when this doesn't work for the Raiders, the Pete Carroll thing hasn't reset the culture, hasn't at least had them competitive. Like if the Raiders if they were sitting here with 2 wins in week 7, but they lost to the Chiefs by a score and they lost to the Chargers by a score and they lost to the Colts by a score instead of getting smoked by all the good teams, then you'd say, all right, they're just moving in the right direction. Of course they're not. They're not as good as the Chargers. They're not as good as the Chiefs. Of course we know that. But they're moving in the right direction. Geno's going to keep them close, and they might sneak some of these wins in. Like they're not even close right now. And if that starts weighing on your first-round running back, that's not great.
I mean, it also just shows how absurdly hard this is to succeed in any meaningful way. Like you can't just, all the analytics and all the, the information within team buildings, and the whole thing is about like, let's just try and do the most likely thing for positive expected value every single time, right? And we do that, we'll be better than the other people that are making these obviously silly mistakes. But just this year, right, of things that you would say are most likely to happen, Geno turning into the worst quarterback in the NFL isn't one of them. Like, that's a pretty low percentage outcome based off previous seasons of Geno. Sam Darnold becoming the best quarterback in the NFL seems equally improbable based off any form of evidence of his career, even factoring in last season. And then the Joe Flacco thing in the last 2 weeks is incredibly improbable as well. So this world where you're like, just stick with whatever you think is the most likely thing to happen. Well, like you do that and everything falls apart and you look like an idiot. Like it's impossible. And yet that's what you're judged on. It's an outcome business. You are what your record says you are. Bill Parcells said it. And that man's in the Hall of Fame. He would know. So everyone's in this terrible world. You're like, I'm going to stick with the most likely thing every single time. I'm going to play the odds, right? I'm going to go out there and be I'm going to do it by the book. I've got the system down. I've memorized the poker outcomes. I'm just going to play poker by the book. And yet you catch a run of shitty cards and none of it matters. You go home with no money.
We got some Eagles news as well. Brandon Graham coming back out of retirement. I'm going to combine this. So there's a couple vibes moves in here, Sam.
Yeah.
Vibes moves. Brandon Graham back to the locker room. 7-month retirement for Brandon Graham. He's back.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, hey, 15 snaps a game. It's just he's going to solve the locker room problems.
I mean, honestly, bringing him back, even if you didn't even play him, if you didn't plan on playing him, might make some sense given where the Eagles are right now. Bringing him back with kind of a need at the edge position for at least a situational guy, it makes so much sense from everybody's. I mean, it's one of those moves that, of course, this is happening.
So I love that. So we'll see. I mean, will we get fewer cryptic tweets from A.J. Brown? Will we get – I mean, it would have been perfect if this happened a week ago and then A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith went off for 300 yards between them like they did. It would have been a better story.
Yeah.
If it was like Brandon Graham shows up and the pass game takes off.
Right, like 2 weeks into a collapse, and you're like, oh, our things are about to spiral out of control for the Eagles. But don't worry, on the horizon, here comes the cavalry.
But this is to keep it together after that win against the Vikings. The other vibes check that happened, and we should have factored this into the AFC North predictions and odds. The Baltimore Ravens, the coaching staff apparently has removed several distractions from the locker room.
Oh, yeah?
Including.
Is this the ping pong table?
The ping pong table.
Every time. It's
Cornhole
always
boards,
the ping pong table.
The basketball hoop, and video game consoles, per the Baltimore Sun.
Man. Why is it always the ping pong table that gets...
Did you see former colleague Ian Hartitz's tweet about that?
No.
So it's I'll paraphrase here because we don't necessarily have it, but there's only 3 ways to fix a football season.
Ping pong table.
There's a number. Basically, it's 1, a player you players only meeting.
Yep.
2, you take away a ping pong table.
Yep.
And then 3, you add a ping pong table.
Oh, you add one.
Yes, that's the only way you're either all business all the time, lose the ping pong table, or you got to loosen things up. Tell the guys it's not life and death. You got to play free. Here's a ping pong table. Let's bring that energy and the fun. Let's just go have fun. You got to play fast. Here's a ping pong table. So the only thing the Ravens have left, assuming they've had some players-only meetings already here, maybe not as many as the Dolphins.
Maybe they haven't.
By week 15, maybe the ping pong table comes back,
I mean, maybe this is the way to do it. Instead of, like Miami, when they went to DEFCON 3 right away, right? Like week 1, we're immediately having players-only meetings. You can't really go anywhere from there. Whereas the Ravens are starting small. We're going to look now, we're going to take away your ping pong table. If you still don't get it, we're going to have to call a players-only meeting. And then, at the end of it, then we're screwed.
What if at the players-only meeting they decided we want the ping pong table? We're going to bring our own ping pong table.
I mean, the resolution of the players-only meeting being we're going to march to get the ping pong table back would be a problem.
We had apparently this was after the Chiefs game, and it's only being reported right now. It's just having fun. It reminds me of the 07 Nashua Pride, my team. We had an absolute debacle, 4th of July debacle. We must have given up 20 runs as a team. And our manager, former big league manager, Butch Hobson, pulled us all aside. It was genius. He blamed ownership.
Huh.
He said he came in. He said they want to fire all you guys. The ownership wants to release everybody, but not me. I believe in you guys.
Back.
He rallied the troops. So he turned. It was like a major league moment where you blame ownership and then you rally the troops. And we went on to win the championship. I'm sure there's a 30 for 30 coming out about the 07 Nashua Pride. But I'll never forget the time with that rallying cry. You blame ownership. They want to they want to release everybody. They don't even want to field a team. They'll just pick people up off the street. They don't believe in you. But he got us going, won the championship that year. And so that's what you really need. If you're sitting there with one win, you just blame ownership. They want to cut everybody. Blame Woody Johnson if you're the Jets. And you got to come together as a team. Without a ping pong table, of course.
It's always I find it interesting that the ping pong table is always at the source of this. I mean, is it just that's the obvious target of fun? Like clearly you're if you're spending time on the ping pong table, you're not focused on football, so we're taking it away. Or is it like there's something specific about a ping pong table that really causes a rot to set in?
Yeah, it's the fact that there's a ping pong table in every locker room. It's easy entertainment to have there, so it's easy to lose.
But does it I've seen people play ping pong and suddenly they turn into like psychos, like the competitive juices are flowing. They're starting to lose the run of themselves. Yeah. I wonder if ping pong, is the competition within the locker room so intense with the ping pong table that fractures have started? Divisions within the group have begun because this guy just whooped this guy's ass at ping pong, and now they hate each other, and that's become a problem on the field.
Yeah, some team unity. Now, look, I can only, as good former athletes do on television, you can only relate to yourself. Right? Everything's got to relate to yourself. So I will say our 05 championship Worcester team, I got the ring for it, Sam. Our 05 team, we had a ping pong table and some intense It's intense ping pong going on in the locker room.
saying.
We won the championship.
Right.
So I don't know if because based off my personal experience, I don't know if the Ravens are making the right move here. We won a title, Canadian American League, 2005.
All right.
With a ping pong table.
Therefore.
We weren't at each other's throats.
No.
Because of intense ping pong games, matches, whatever you call those things. Good time. This is what we're doing here. This is what Wednesday's all about.
Mm-hmm.
Rambling about nonsense. What else we have here? Still have no info on Chiefs left tackle Josh Simmons.
Yeah.
Still very mum about what's happening there. Has not been with the team for a couple weeks now. Personal reasons. And, no one will comment on it.
No one will comment on it, and because they're not being fed information,
that could be
the insiders appear to be struggling to provide information, which is not ideal.
Which is all fine. It's just when there's no information, people speculate.
Right.
And the speculation is wide, very varied. So we'll keep an eye on that. Josh Simmons, Chiefs left tackle. The Titans have released wide receiver Tyler Lockett after just 10 catches and 70 yards for Tennessee. I will say, I still, I don't know if Lockett has anything left necessarily, but the way the Titans were using him never made sense to me, even from when I saw him at training camp. They're using him in the slot as the motion guy, bubble sweep, bubble screen guy. I mean, the best play he made was recovering the ball in the end zone? Tyler Lockett.
Yeah.
But the usage of Tyler Lockett, I still would rather him as an outside receiver or just running routes, not being after the catch bubble screen guy. Just go play foot. It's honestly the same thing I would say about Travis Hunter. It's like just go let him play Z or play X, play outside, and see what happens. Go play football. I don't want to get the ball into Tyler Lockett's hands 12 years into his career. Like, that's not what he should be doing. And so I don't know if he's going to solve a team's wide receiver issues, but I think he can add some decent depth and maybe win on the outside a little bit.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's definitely hasn't been a great situation for him. You know, young quarterback not playing well, offensive scheme that isn't necessarily putting him in the best position to succeed. It did kind of feel like last year was very much the end of the road for Tyler Lockett, though. Like, it was, you had people being like, Tyler Lockett could, career resurgence late in the day with Tennessee. And it just, he's been nothing in that offense.
Yeah.
So maybe he'll land in a better spot for him and show that he does still have something left in the tank, but recent evidence doesn't say there's much there.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, again, I'm not saying he's solving any receiving issues, but, as a wide receiver 4, can he contribute? Probably. I think he'd be okay. What else do we have here? Carson Wentz officially going to start tomorrow night for the Vikings. So it's the short week. No J.J. McCarthy again. So Carson Wentz going up against the Chargers on the short week. This is a pivotal game for both teams here, Vikings and Chargers. We'll talk about it tomorrow in the preview show. And then let's talk Mike Evans for a minute here. Mike Evans injured on Monday Night Football. We talked about it a little bit on the recap show. It looked like did he officially get concussed on that play too?
I'm pretty sure.
He went down, hit his head, but also broke his collarbone.
Yeah.
And so that's a 6 to 8 week injury. That's going to be most of the season. He still could come back. But a huge blow for Evans, who was already coming off of missing a couple games with a hamstring injury. Of course, he's got that record for 1,000-yard seasons as a receiver. Your thoughts on the Mike Evans injury and what it means for the Bucs, but also Mike Evans, the legacy, the person, the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks for everybody involved that, Mike Evans is down for the majority, if not the rest of the season. And given his age, 32 now, I think, that could be the end of his career. Who knows? Maybe it's not. Maybe he'll come back and he'll play another few years. But, it could be it for Mike Evans. So obviously people turn at this point to, well, what does his career look like if this is it? If this is the end, what is his legacy? How does it get wrapped up? Where does he stack? Where does he rank in the pantheon of receivers, of Buccaneers greats, et cetera, et cetera? And that's where I think you get a fairly broad range of opinions on Mike Evans.
Did you see Kyle Brandt's take?
Well, Kyle Brandt had a take a year ago where his spicy take in 2024 was that Mike Evans was the greatest ever Tampa Bay Buccaneer. He said he was a first ballot Hall of Famer and had been for a while, and that he's the greatest ever Buccaneer. He then resurfaced that take, obviously, after the Mike Evans injury. Yeah. And I disagree with both elements of that. I don't think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer for multiple reasons. Number one, I don't think he's good enough to have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. Number two, almost nobody now is a first ballot Hall of Famer at the wide receiver position.
True.
There have been 3 first ballot Hall of Fame wide receivers this century. They are Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, and Megatron, right? 3 of the best 5 receivers to have ever played the game, you would say. So, I mean, everyone has to wait. Chris Carter had to wait. Marvin Harrison had to wait. There are receivers that are still waiting that I think have a better resume for their career than Mike Evans. So I think the idea that he's a first ballot Hall of Famer is actually insane. Whether or not he's the greatest ever Buck, his case rested a lot on, some postseason success, all that kind of thing. So it gets fuzzier than just saying, was he a better player than X, Y, or Z? I think he's clearly not the best ever player to play for the Buccaneers.
That's not what he's saying. I mean, Tom Brady had a 3-year stretch with the Bucs.
I mean, the best ever
Super Bowl.
Player, including longevity.
Right. So you have Derek
He's
Brooks.
clearly not the best player that Tampa Bay owns.
Derek Brooks, Warren Sapp, Rondé Barber from that Super Bowl team.
Levante David is a better player than Mike Evans for their careers, and
Levante David is the best Buck of all time. Maybe.
I'm not saying he's the best Buck of all time, but I'm saying even if you want to restrict it, because he mentioned the great, the Derek Brooks, John Lynch, Warren Sapp thing, and his argument was, well, those 3 all played together, therefore they enhanced each other, therefore Mike Evans is better. If you want to stick to that argument, I would argue that Levante David, just as a contemporary, has been a better player and had a better peak and has had the same kind of I've been doing it by myself type of deal relative to Mike Evans. I would say David is a better argument.
I'm curious what other people think here, because I'm trying to. You mentioned this way earlier on the show. You're not trying to tear down the person and everything.
Mike Evans,
the Bucs.
Who is it? Neil Payne for 538 or whatever used to have the Hall of, is it the Hall of Pretty Good? The Hall of, the Hall of Very Good type of thing, right?
Yeah.
You're a very, very good player. You should be in the Bucs Ring of Honor. You're one of the best Bucs to have, suited up for the team. All those things. In my opinion, there's a big gap between those guys and are you a Hall of Famer? Certainly, I mean, first ballot, maybe an irrelevant, pointless distinction anyway, but to me, Mike Evans has been a great NFL player. He absolutely is one of the best Bucs to have played in history. He should be in the team's Ring of Honor. I don't believe that he's either the greatest Tampa Bay Buccaneer of all time, or necessarily that he's a Hall of Famer at all.
Yeah, Mike Evans, awesome player. They re-signed him a couple years ago. Despite him getting into his 30s, being more injury prone, and all the different things, the risk that you incur when you do that, because he's been a model citizen, quintessential Buck, went through the bad years up to the Super Bowl year, and now in these good years that the Bucs had. I mean, they wanted him around, and he's awesome. He's got over 100 touchdowns in his career, which used to be a big thing. Like Steve Largent had 100 for a while.
It still is a huge thing,
right? And it's the longevity's been impressive. And the consistency with Evans, I think in stretches, you watch him play, whether Brady was throwing him the ball or Jameis or Baker, and you're like, man, this dude can take over games. This guy's unstoppable at times. But it wasn't always there, And how many years was he really a top 5 to 8 receiver around the NFL? Like if you were polling in each of those individual seasons, would you rank Mike Evans in the top 5 to 8? And that's always one of my criteria for the Hall of Fame. Is within this era, were you absolutely one of the best and unquestioned at that time?
And 5 to 8's not even a particularly narrow band in that. Yeah. I would be more restrictive than that. I was like, can you make an argument that at any point you were like a top 3 wide receiver? And I don't think you can make that case for Mike Evans. Really.
I mean, I'm saying top 5. Could you do 5 to 8 at any given point? Maybe. He's probably in there in certain seasons or whatever.
But that's what I'm saying. That's a pretty wide net to be cast.
I'm being kind here. I'm being kind.
Yeah.
Because there's Jimmy Smith was a top 2 receiver.
For a decade.
Right, for a while of his career. Torrey Holt and Isaac Bruce were in the top 3 to 5 receivers.
I mean, Torrey Holt had one of
the
greatest, 5-6 season stretches to open a career of anybody ever.
And then you have this 1,000-yard. And so my take on this whole thing is I said this a couple weeks ago on Twitter that you responded to. There are enough stats out there now and ways to filter stats that you can tell any story that you want. So if you want to tell the story, how many total seasons is it? 11 for Mike Evans? 11 straight seasons with over 1,000 yards. And again, there's some detractors for Evans. They're like, well, one season was 1,006, 1,035, 1,004 because we made this arbitrary cutoff. But because you say 11 straight seasons over 1,000, who else has done that? Well, Jerry Rice. Well, Jerry Rice is the clear GOAT at everything. Longevity, peak, multiple quarterbacks, Super Bowls. Jerry Rice has done it all. He's the GOAT. And Mike Evans is the only other person who's done this one thing that only Jerry Rice has done. Therefore, let's equate those things.
It's just such a,
So you could tell any story that you want. I could also tell the story that Mike Evans, where did he rank in just receiving yards? It was the same metric, right? He was 10th or 12th or 15th in these various seasons. And you could tell that same story on the other side and say he's barely a top 10 wide receiver. You could tell either side of the story if you want to.
I have a hard time with stats like this, where it's like a guy has done a fairly not impressive thing 11 straight times, and that makes it impressive, right?
Yeah.
Now, look, there's that's a longevity thing. There's the fact that Mike Evans has been able to only miss 3 games maximum in that 11-season span is pretty nuts. Most receivers get hurt. Most receivers miss time. There is absolutely something to be said and something laudable about a guy that just does not miss time to the point where they've been able to stack up 11 straight 1,000-yard seasons, right? But 24 different receivers had an 1,000-yard season last year. So it's not a particularly high bar. It's not a huge achievement. Guys like Calvin Ridley, Jacoby Myers, these are guys that had 1,000-yard seasons last year. It's not a tremendously high bar. So how many of them do you need to stack up before the not very high bar becomes a very high bar just because you put 11 of them back to back? In my opinion, that's just not a particularly good way of measuring greatness, if you like, right? So I don't have if that's the thing, and it will be, that'll be a big part of Mike Evans' case when people start making it for Hall
it's
of
only
Fame.
him and Jerry Rice.
Right.
How could you argue with that?
Only those two guys have put 11 straight 1,000-yard seasons. I mean, in my opinion, 4 1,700-yard seasons is dramaticry more impressive than 11 straight 1,000-yard seasons.
I
right?
agree.
So
and then that's like the Kurt Warner. Like Kurt Warner's got a 4 or 5 game or season stretch that's among the best in history.
If that's true, right? If you are also of the opinion that 4 of those seasons is worth more than 11 of the other seasons, well, then what's the point here? Then the 11 thing is irrelevant because we don't care. It's more important how good you were, not how long you were pretty good for.
Yeah, I mean, and the Kurt Warner example I use is he probably had 4 or 5 seasons, not necessarily in a row, but if you take his 99, 2000, his 08, 07, if you take his 4 best seasons, it's like you're putting that up there against the peaks of other great quarterbacks. But Warner didn't have the longevity. He had this staggered career where he was good early and then good late and 3 Super Bowl appearances and the whole thing. And that's a certain type of Hall of Fame case. Evans is going to have more of a Frank Gore type of Hall of Fame case.
Yes.
I think Evans was better than Gore. Would you put him over Gore?
Yeah.
I'm having a tough time remembering Frank Gore at his peak.
So I think his case is absolutely similar to Frank Gore's, and Curtis Martin is the other player who I think he's somewhere between those two on the spectrum. I don't think he's as good as Curtis Martin was, and I think he's better than Frank Gore was.
I'm not remembering Curtis Martin being that great.
That's the type of player he was, in my opinion. Incredibly durable, very good, but never one of the true best for any period of time.
All right.
And look, and again, I always feel bad about these conversations because it sounds negative relative to everybody else. Like Kyle Brandt out here saying he's a first ballot Hall of Famer and the greatest buck of all time. I just think that's incorrect. And I don't think you do him any favors by patronizing him effectively and saying that. I think that's clearly untrue.
I'll be honest, there's sometimes I wish I wasn't as analytical as I was and I could just flow with the emotions and say, I get Kyle's stance on it. You watched him across the bad times up to the good times. There's a certain level of consistency. Mike Evans has been unbelievably consistent, not just statistically, but in how he's played, how well he's played, and the reliability of him for over a decade. That's really impressive. So sometimes I wish, and I think he's a very good, it's not a knock to say he's a very good player.
This is the thing. I think we undermine how good it is to just have a really, really good NFL career and be, team Ring of Honor worthy by trying to layer hyperbole onto everything. And like every player that retires is the greatest ever at whatever he's done. It's like, okay, number one, he isn't. And number two, why do we need to go there? Like, it's already good enough to say Mike Evans has been a fantastic NFL wide receiver for over a decade and is one of the best Bucs to play, deserves to be in the team's Ring of Honor and be, acknowledged as one of the best Tampa Bay Buccaneers of all time. I think it does him and everybody else a disservice to try and make the case that he's a first ballot Hall of Famer and the greatest Buck to play of all time. Because I think it's fairly convincingly not the case. And I just think it's patronizing. Like we don't need to do that for him to acknowledge that he's great.
And maybe we're part of the problem because we jumped right into the Hall of Fame question instead of saying this does affect the Bucs this year because Mike Evans can still play, by the way. I do hope he comes back to play. I don't really care about the 1,000-yard streak. I mean, it's unfortunate that it's ending. I don't care through the sense of, I don't think it's the thing that tells you how good Mike Evans is necessarily. I think it's the way he plays, and he's still out there like a capable deep threat, can catch the ball off his frame, add a ton to the offense, and it's going to be a big loss for the Bucs.
One last thing, by the way. If you are of the opinion that Mike Evans is a Hall of Famer, the number of wide receivers that you need to clear in the backlog for the Hall of Fame to get him in is pretty crazy.
It's just another issue, and I'm actually more of the mind I'd rather get a bunch more of them in than leave them out. Even though passing has taken off, I think the receiving talent has also taken off in the last 2 decades, and a lot of them deserve to be in.
But like a guy, I mean, you mentioned him earlier, a guy like Jimmy Smith has no chance of making the Hall of Fame.
People have no clue how good Jimmy Smith is, and it's very sad. I'm not just as a 90s Jags homer. Like, that dude was unbelievable.
Yeah.
As a 3-level threat, but especially down the field.
But he's got no chance anymore of making the Hall of Fame, like zero. And yet, those are guys that are waiting, right? Like Sterling Sharp only just made the Hall of Fame after arguably being
he was
up
clearly
there.
One of the best.
He was like his career was shortened by injuries, so it's more complicated. But like he was up there with the Jerry Rices of the world as like this guy might be the best wide receiver in football for a significant period of time. And he had to wait this long. Reggie Wayne's not in the Hall of Fame. Like Torrey Holt, you mentioned before, Hines Ward, Jimmy Smith, Chad Johnson. There's so many wide receivers you need to get in. I would argue all of those guys are better than Mike Evans was.
Just for perspective.
And Larry Fitzgerald's going to come up next year.
Jimmy Smith had over 1,000 yards in 9 out of his 10 final seasons. It's actually very Mike Evans-y type of career, except 1 year he only had 805 because he got hurt and missed a few games in 2003. So he only had 805 1 year.
But he also got you look at some of his
does that because he was 200 below this random threshold?
But you also stack up some of his accumulation, compiling stats, and they don't look that amazing because the start of his career took a while to get going because he broke a leg and
crazy stuff.
And he had a series of weird things pop up at the start of his career. It took him a while to get cooking, but then once he did, there's literally a decade stretch where he was the second most dominant receiver in basically every category to Marvin Harrison, I think.
Jimmy Smith did not start really until he was 27.
Correct.
27 through 36.
And now we're saying once you hit 30, game over, right?
Oh yeah, he was still, and he did it with the great Mark Brunell, but he even did it with Byron Leftwich too.
Right. So I'm just saying, if you want to put Mike Evans in the Hall of Fame, that's fine, but look at the number of wide receivers you need to get clear before that happens.
That's what it all comes down to. You want to put a receiver in the Hall of Fame? Fine. Just put Jimmy Smith in first. And then
we'll put 25 more guys in the Hall of Fame if you want to get that deep into the bench.
All right. It's time to do a little roadside assistance. Got to tell you about our friends over at Root Insurance. Root Insurance believes that good drivers deserve better rates, so they've created a new kind of car insurance that rewards good drivers in an easy-to-use app. Traditional car insurance companies focus on demographics like age, zip code, occupation, and credit score to price your coverage. When Root offers a rate, your behavior behind the wheel gets more weight than any other single factor. They don't use occupation or education level to negatively affect your rate. While you drive, Root gathers and analyzes data from your smartphone's sensors, and after a few weeks, you'll get a car insurance quote based primarily on your driving. Save up to 44% off your initial Root quote after you take the test drive. If you need a tow truck, jump start, or if you lock your keys in the car, Root will offer the help you need to get back on the road when you opt into roadside assistance. The Root app makes it easy to edit your coverage, update your policy, or file a claim in just 3 minutes. You can get started today at Root.com. And so today, Sam, we're providing roadside assistance to the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
The one-win Dolphins coming off of, man, Mike McDaniel's quote. I don't know what the question was. Let's hear it.
He's going to take the snaps this week, and he's going to be our starter this week. And my expectation is that we don't throw 10 picks.
And barring injury.
Yeah, he's going to take the snaps this week, and he's going to be our starter this week. And my expectation.
Yeah, his expectation is to not have 10 interceptions. Seems reasonable.
Is he throwing Tua under the bus here?
I mean, no more than, everyone's already under the bus.
They're all under the bus.
The whole franchise is currently under the bus in Miami.
So I'm of the mind that two things are true here for the Miami Dolphins. I believe, as I've said since the offseason, the roster's in rough shape. And they opted into this world of fewer draft picks and fewer young players, and just they lost a nucleus to build around. Their nucleus, when they were good, was Tyreek Hill, Jalen Ramsey, Javon Holland, who was already there. They've lost this nucleus on the team. The offensive line's never really gotten better. So I think there's roster issues. And then there's, they're not completely devoid of talent. They have some talented players, and no one's playing up to expectations, including Tua. How do we fix this thing?
Well, that's tough. So, I mean, everything needs to change. But I do wonder, do you keep him, is there any real benefit to firing people, everybody, McDaniel, right now? Or do you just the season's done, we're toast, let's start trading away assets, and let's fire everyone in the offseason?
I think they need, I'll take this GM job too. It's got to start. It's not starting. We're not fixing them for this year. They need to draft well, draft in volume. They've got the fewest draft picks over the last whatever time period I said it was this offseason, over the last 3 years.
I will say the roster is a bigger problem than coaching right now.
I agree.
This is a bad roster, and you're just getting the fairly inevitable consequences of a bad roster. Now, I also think there's a degree to which Mike McDaniel's shtick wears thin when things aren't going well. It's one thing to be, the quirky Ivy League guy who's, making jokes and wearing the sunglasses and having the weird 3/4 length leggings. You can do that while everything's going well, and you're just a character, right? When things are going bad and you're cracking jokes about your quarterback throwing 10 interceptions, now that's just pissing people off now. So I do think there's a world where Mike McDaniel may not be suited to this exact situation, but I think he's less responsible for it than other people.
It's funny how much anger he's gotten from media. Remember when they were playing well?
But don't you think it's the coaching equivalent of the Joe Burrow versus Baker Mayfield swag versus attitude problem?
Yeah, when it's working, it's cool.
Right.
It's
when things win, you're this is just moxie. When things go bad, it's the guy's an asshole. He's the problem. For the coach, it's this is just when everything's good, he's he's quirky. It's fun. It's a character. And now it's why is he such a douche?
Do you remember? I think it was Kyle Brandt in that first year, kind of went off on him when they had the high-powered offense and they ran into the Bills and weren't that good.
Right.
And it was kind of oh, you think you're this, you think you're that. It's no, Mike's just being him. He's not.
Right. It's just who he is.
He's not saying I'm a genius on this or that, but Kyle kind of did it early. And now you have, was it Brewski and Rex Ryan? Everybody's oh my God.
Rex Ryan.
Right.
Shocking.
Every football guy's oh, you suck. You're the worst. You don't know what you're doing. And your shtick's always been bad. Yeah, when it's bad, it's bad. They've played, I hate using the word finesse, but they've played like a finesse team, though. It's they've been a throw the ball down the field, outside the numbers with speed receivers. Their run game is all perimeter runs. It's just how they've played. There's very few teams in the NFL in the last decade you could actually characterize as finesse, as in that's the way they win on the perimeter. When they win over the middle, it's anticipation throws. They win with finesse. That's just the reality of it. And when they run into good teams, they've never been physical enough. So I think they tried to overhaul it this year. They picked a second-round guard who can't block anybody right now, and a defensive tackle who's not bringing the physicality that they expected. And I'm not saying they won't be good going forward. I think Kenneth Grant still has plenty of potential. They just got to keep going back to that well, build through the trenches, draft 10 to 12 times over the next few years in volume. And honestly, I don't know what to do with Tua. Because
I think you take your medicine now. This is going to be a bad year. If people are calling for the likes of Jalen Phillips, sure, let's trade him away. Let's ring fence a couple of like key cornerstone pieces that are in the Maxx Crosby bucket of doesn't matter who's calling, those guys are not moving. Everyone else is available. Let's trade away what's there to be traded away. Everyone, like, determine who you're, like, if you're the owner, determine who you're firing now, right? Like, who is surviving this? Make that list. Those guys are getting dropped out of the building the second the season finishes, but we're not doing it now because we're not paying off more than we need to. We're not, there's no reason to do it now. We're already losing games. We're already headed for the tank at the top of the draft. Let's just keep that going. I think they're drafting a quarterback at the top of the draft and figuring out how and when they can get away from Tua.
The Mike McDaniel thing is going to be fascinating, too, because he was the hot offensive coordinator for the Niners, gets the head coaching job, and again, A/B analysis on this whole thing. Does he get credit for this offense that got this incredible production out of Tua, even though it peaked against good teams? There was a cap to it. He got incredible production out of Tua. Or is that the Tyreek Hill factor, where everywhere Tyreek Hill has been? I mean, it's two places, but we've seen the wit without stats. Not that they're bad for Mahomes, but the downfield throws and there's a ridiculous difference in Tyreek Hill in Kansas City pre and post as far as statistics go, and then pre and post way even wider range of Tua before and after Tyreek Hill got there. Was it all him, or was it McDaniel? Because if McDaniel deserves credit for getting the most out of Tua, then that makes him a hot offensive coordinator name somewhere else at some point.
I think he is anyway. Like you mentioned before, the real mistake that Rex Ryan made in his career was jumping straight into another head coaching gig instead of. I think the real way of getting the most out of the second chance is to take that stint as the coordinator. Like if the first job goes bad, eventually you end up getting fired. I think you go back to being just an awesome coordinator on either side of the ball. You spend a couple of years there, even if it's not all you. If the situation is good, you go get hired by your old coach or whatever, and then you're immediately back being one of the hot names again because, well, look, he's a great coordinator, and then you can easily, once you've got evidence either side of the bad outcome, you can say, well, he's good. It's just obviously things were not great in the first, McDaniel will be able, let's say he goes back to wherever. Let's say he goes back to San Francisco the way Saleh is. The 49ers offense is cooking, even though we know that's all Kyle Shanahan. You will have people saying, well, before he was great and after he was great, and in the middle he had Tua. How could he possibly win? And even then he put together a really good offense for a couple of years. He's clearly a great coach. Whereas if you just go straight into another one, it doesn't go well. Well, now you're just toast.
Yeah, I could see him being OC somewhere, and you can make a case that we got the most out of Tua, and then Dolphins have a decision to make. Do you try to get out from Tua's contract in a year? You need another year, because then that offense.
But you can draft the guy at the top of this round, and then Tua becomes the bridge quarterback,
right?
Before you can get rid of him.
And I've always been torn on Tua. There's a lot to like there. Was he in the perfect offense for him? Does he go become a backup in San Francisco in 2 years, and all of a sudden it's what a great backup option for Brock Purdy. I don't know where we are, but he looks kind of broken as well right now.
Oh yeah, I mean he is having the worst season of his career in terms of EPA and those types of things. And remember, the first couple of years he looked like a complete and total bust.
And there were questions,
right?
There were plenty of questions after 2 years
before McDaniel got there, and suddenly he looked better, and it's like, oh, he's fixed to it. I mean, he's playing worse now than he did in those first years where people were writing him off and saying this is done. Last thing, funniest outcome, McDaniel, who's become, South Beach McDaniel with the gold glasses and the watch and all, and the Jordans and all that kind of stuff. Where is the funniest city that he could land after that? The absolute antithesis of South Beach.
Green Bay.
He goes to be LaFleur's coordinator.
Yeah, he's past game consultant or something up there.
Perfect. I like that. Yeah. Green Bay.
Going to Green Bay.
The anti-South Beach.
Keep it in the weren't they all together?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're buddies.
The old 2013 Washington picture.
And Bobby's got to go back.
He's got to go with him.
He's going to go draw plays for Kyle again.
Bobby's got to go with him. They're all you just recreating the 2013 Washington offensive staff. Or
one of them needs to get back
staff.
with McVay. McVay doesn't have too many old Washington people with him.
Well,
he's built his own tree.
Because there was a few years where everyone that ever met Sean McVay got given another job.
That's true. All right, we fixed it. It's roadside assistance for the Miami Dolphins. Go check it out, root.com. We're finally to our draft. 45 minutes late. We'll put the rundown together thinking we would get to this at 10:15.
Yeah.
No, Will, you didn't know we were going to talk about Mike Evans' Hall of Fame case for 20 minutes or break down the history of ping pong tables without, within locker. We didn't know we were going to do this.
It was optimistic.
We're going to draft our top 5 Super Bowl contenders. Super Bowl 60, by the way. LX.
Yeah. LX.
Out in the Bay Area this year. So do you want to go first? How are we doing this?
I don't know. Do you want to flip a coin for who goes first?
Yeah, flip a virtual coin.
Coin flip. Call it. Heads or tails.
See who's got the best Super Bowl contenders.
Or don't call it.
Heads.
Yeah, it is heads. You go. Where are you going first or second? I assume you're going first.
I'll go first. Tails fails often, at least half the time. Super Bowl contenders. So we're going to each take teams and see who's got the best Super Bowl contenders.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm going to start with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah. I think that's the obvious one. They're back. Chiefs are back, baby.
It is. I love this world. We are, as you get older, time flies, right? Like a month ago wasn't that long in real time, but it's a lot in football time.
Oh, we're like a couple of weeks away from people being like, are the Chiefs in trouble?
That's what I'm saying. We are literally weeks removed from Chiefs are dead, Dynasty's dead takes.
Yes.
Dynasty is dead. We're just weeks. And now it's like, well, the Chiefs are obviously the best again.
Yeah. Not just
Clearly.
are they back, but they're like clear Super Bowl favorites.
Oh, yeah. Like, who's going to even stop them?
Right.
Everybody's healthy. They're missing their left tackle. They're banged. A couple offensive linemen maybe banged up, but everyone's in pretty good standing there. Rashee Rice is back, and they're cooking.
Mm-hmm.
Mahomes is MVP. Doesn't matter what his PFF grade is. He's MVP. Everything's good. Kansas City. Well, they're my top pick. Anyway.
Yeah. I think it is the most logical pick. Like, you could argue that there's a better team in the NFL right now. I don't know that you could argue that given the pedigree of postseason performance, you would pick anybody else other than the Chiefs.
All right, where are you going?
That's tough because I don't really want to take. I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions. I think because they're in the NFC, they have an easier path.
They don't. They don't, though. The NFC is loaded is the problem.
I don't think it is.
I think the NFC is way better than the AFC.
I think their path is going to be because you don't have to get by the Chiefs till the Super Bowl.
Okay, so you've got the Lions.
The records are all better, but I don't know that the pathway is more difficult once we get to the postseason.
I don't know. The powerhouses that we're supposed to be are showing weakness, one of which is my next pick, the Buffalo Bills.
Oh, okay.
We're not snaking this thing, right?
No.
Yeah, so I'm taking the Bills. So I've got the Chiefs and the Bills. Feeling good about this.
You're not at all concerned by the recent wobbles from Buffalo?
No. I mean, the run defense, the defense in general worries me. If they've been so turnover-driven the last couple of years.
It's finally coming back.
And it's like, we called this 3 years ago. You can't live off turnovers. It's finally coming back. The defense concerns me a little bit. The offense does not concern me. Like, are there concerns on the offense? Yeah, a little bit. I'm not too worried about it. It's week 7. The number of times that 2 and 3 week stretches affect, like, through 3 weeks, there were also takes that Josh Allen was playing the quarterback position better than anyone in history because they were 3-0, looking great, looking like the best team, and Josh Allen's not, no one's played the position better. By the way, we need the before and after statistical breakdown of Josh Allen since that take by Mike Greenberg.
We really need like a old takes exposed thing where we just keep a running tally of like, this was a take this season and now it looks absurd. This was a take.
They change every 3 weeks.
I know.
So I'm going to tell you,
we need
week 7, our takes on the Bills right now where it's like lost 2 in a row, sky's falling, they're losing the division to the Patriots. The Patriots are the new power in the AFC East. It's not true yet.
But we need like a top 5 running, Mount Rushmore of hot takes that were then proven idiocy within the same season. Like we should keep that running through a year.
Ours included?
Yeah, sure. Hopefully we won't be on our own top 5.
If they're hot enough. So I'll take the Bills and the Chiefs in my Super Bowl draft.
Okay. I didn't want to take them with my first pick, but I will now take the Indianapolis Colts as an absolute wagon on offense. And I think their defense is good enough that they're a contender. So, absent Daniel Jones implosions, I think the Colts are absolutely a legit contender.
I'm the opposite of a hot take artist. I'm like, give me a full season of this before I completely buy it.
The problem with that is it's too late by then.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
It's way too late.
So I'm not, like, I wasn't willing to do this after, like, week 3. But 6-1, I've seen enough to suggest that this is for real.
Yeah, I don't know if I fully trust Daniel Jones, but I think they're equipped to win even when he plays average football.
Yeah.
Which is a good setup.
Like I said, he just needs to not implode. I don't even need him to be great.
I'll tell you what the most interesting dynamic of the Colts is to me is Lou Anarumo running that defense. We're talking about a guy that was talked about as crafting the game plans to slow down Patrick Mahomes. It didn't work every time.
Right.
But it at least slowed him down, and they beat him before and what have you. Beat him multiple times. And he got run out of Cincinnati mostly because of a talent problem. Say it ran its course. But that's what's interesting to me. I worry a little bit about the secondary injuries and Travarius Ward going down now, but when Indy gets into the playoffs and you're talking about game plan oriented Lou and the way they're scheming it up on offense, they're good. I mean, they're a good team, but I think Lou Anarumo might be the big key to Indy making a run here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go, so I've got the Chiefs and the Bills. I'm going to go with the Rams next. I can't believe I'm sleeping on. No, I'm going to go Eagles. I'll go Eagles. Same thing as the Bills. I'm not buying. I don't care about the vibes over the last 3 weeks. It's Eagles. They're still good. They still have it in them. I'm going to win this. When we go back and look at this draft, one of my teams is winning the Super Bowl. Chiefs, Bills, and Eagles now are my Super Bowl contender drafted teams.
Yeah. Well, with having the Chiefs on their own, you're in a pretty good starting spot.
I mean, vibes are going to switch with them at some 3 weeks from now. They drop one to Washington out of nowhere or whatever. They lose to Buffalo again. Vibes will change in Kansas City at some point too. They're just at a high right now.
Yeah, justifiably. I mean, they do. I think
they just lost to the Jags 2 weeks ago. I mean, these things change weekly here.
But now they got Rashee Rice back. Okay, so you went with the Eagles over the Rams. I want to take the Green Bay Packers. I know I've now taken 2 teams from the same division, which might not be the smartest strategy in the world, but I do feel like the Packers have this ceiling that is absurdly high, and I'm kind of backing at some point they'll find it.
It's amazing that vibe has changed, that the thoughts on I didn't think they had that ceiling until they traded for Parsons and showed what the ceiling is for that defense. I think you're right, though.
The defense and the offense. I mean, I think both sides have this gear that not many teams can hit this year. And to be fair, even the Packers haven't hit that often this season. But at some point, I'm banking on that actually clicking into gear and working.
So I'm happy about how this is turning out here, that I'm taking the Rams, who I was considering with the last pick. So I'll take the Rams. Stafford's playing great football. I love what their offense is capable of, and their defense is absolutely capable of having those 7 and 8 sack games that we've seen from them, and just creating a ton of havoc. And they're just equipped. They're built to make one of those runs. They've done it before with Stafford. So I'll take the Rams. So I got the Chiefs, Bills, Eagles, and Rams now as my Super Bowl contenders. Who do you have?
I have
your last pick?
I have the Colts, I have the Lions, and I have the Packers.
So yeah,
2
this
more.
is your 4th pick here out of 5.
Yeah. I am going to drop down the order a little bit, and I'm going to select the Seattle Seahawks.
Ooh, I was considering them too. You're going down to Seattle.
Defense can be nasty, and Darnold has yet to implode in a massive way this season. And maybe that happens in the playoffs again. But if it doesn't, the Seahawks are absolutely a contender.
No, absolutely. The way their defense is playing, and if you do get the good stretch of Darnold, the way he's playing, absolutely. Like Seattle there. The last selection for me will be the Tampa Bay Bucks.
Ah, damn it.
Yeah.
That's who I wanted.
Going with the Bucks.
That's who I wanted.
Now, we're out Evans, but Evans could come back by the end, and we keep coming back to the Bucks being at 5-2, surviving to this point with all of their injuries, the late game magic that they're capable of, they can go on the magical run. The Bucs, especially as my 5th selection here.
Right.
They can go on the magical run. So I'll take the Bucs.
Ugh. I don't like any other team now.
Yeah.
I guess the most
New England is still there.
I did consider them as an outside shot.
Can I give you a?
It basically needs Drake May maintaining this level of play, though, which is probably not that.
Can I give you a Patriots scheduling stat here?
Sure.
From PFF's Power Rankings. To date, the Patriots have had the easiest schedule in the NFL.
Right.
Remaining, they have the easiest schedule in the NFL.
Right, but that stops being the case once you hit the playoffs.
No, I know that. I'm saying it's going to be a fascinating case here because I think they're better. I think they've improved. They might be 12-5 or 13-4 and roll in there, and you might say, do we know how good they are? They've only played the Bills a couple times. They've only played a couple good teams along the way. Will we really know what they are? Might feel like last year's Commanders, right? Where like the record, like everything ends up good at the end, but do you really trust them against the best teams? Maybe not.
Yeah, I mean the playoffs are absolutely on the table for them, and they could even win the division given that Buffalo have dropped a couple of games and they have to play them, and they've already got a win against them. So they could end up with a really good regular season, but I think it needs Drake May basically playing like the best quarterback in the NFL for them to go on a run through the playoffs and win a Super Bowl, which I'm not willing to bet on yet.
And by the way, my Bills are, they have one of the easiest schedules as well. They haven't beaten a whole lot of good teams at this point, especially when you diminish the Ravens win back in week 1, which looked impressive at the time. But
so I'm not going to go with the Patriots. I don't have the faith in Denver or Pittsburgh or the Chargers anymore, given their injuries. I mean, you could be crazy and say the Ravens at 1-5 with Lamar Jackson if he comes back. If they make it, they would be dangerous. I'm not ready to gamble on that either. The one left by default, I think, has to be the 49ers. They've won. They've got themselves in this 5-2 position with everyone hurt. People are coming back. Okay, 2 important people are not coming back in Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, but they are getting bodies back. They should be a better team over the course of the season. And we've seen that offense can cook with Kyle Shanahan and the job that he's doing. Robert Saleh, I think, on defense is making a big difference, even if he's now undermanned talent-wise. Yeah. I guess the 49ers are the last team almost by default.
So you have 2 NFC West teams.
Yeah.
And 2 NFC
North teams.
All right. So my top 5 in our Super Bowl contender draft, I've got the Kansas City Chiefs, the Buffalo Bills, Philadelphia Eagles, Los Angeles Rams, Tampa Bay Bucks. Feeling good about that. We'll come back.
Yeah, it turns out picking first is quite
an
benefit
advantage
this way.
Maybe we should have snaked it. What about Denver? Denver didn't make one of our lists here.
Like I said, their offense has been awful for 7 of the last 8 quarters. So, until we see some consistent level of production from that group and Bo Nix, I'm not buying that they can do it.
I didn't even buy in Houston in this exercise.
Good, because that would be crazy.
We're done there. All right, what's your final 5 here?
My final 5, Indianapolis, Detroit, Green Bay, San Francisco, and who's my other team? Oh, Seattle.
Nice. Fun times. Let us know in the comments. Who are your give us your top 5. Just drop your top 5 in there in the comments. Super Bowl contenders.
Mm-hmm.
Super Bowl draft here in week 7. What else we got to cover today? I think that's it. A little over 2 hours. The Wednesday show, man. It's good times. We get to ramble about Hall of Fame takes and whatever else we want, whatever else comes up. Memberships. People keep rolling in.
Yeah.
Memberships.
They do.
Let you guys run free reign over here around the show. We had our members only Thursday night watch along last week. We'll be doing more of those. Still want to do a college football Saturday just because Kelly keeps booking stuff for me on Saturday. I need something to do where I can watch all the games. We're going to farms. We've got baseball ending this week. We need to do an all-day Saturday watch along for members.
There's so many things that get teed up for the fall, autumn, where it's like, do you not understand that this is football season? The people organizing the local girls soccer league need to understand that Sunday at 1 p.m. is not a time for this.
Can't believe that people book stuff between 1 and midnight on a Sunday.
Right.
I can't believe it.
Right. And it's like you've got pumpkin patches to go to. It's like, I don't have time for that. Like,
No.
when are you supposed to get that done?
And so for me personally, obviously, I'm going to be watching the games on Sunday. So then in my family, it's like, well, we've got our autumn checklist. So
luckily, it
seeing
absolutely,
friends and pumpkin patches and farms, it's like it's going to be on Saturday. I'm trying to move them to Friday.
Luckily, it absolutely pissed rain last Sunday, but I was supposedly out there coaching 2 separate girls' soccer games during the NFL slate. My weekend was going to be an absolute nightmare, and then it got rained out because it was a giant, storm came down. But we're now rescheduled for Friday. But Friday's okay. Friday, there's no game on Friday. You can put it in Friday evening. That works
Friday,
okay.
yeah.
Sunday at 11 and then 1 something when there's a London game going on. That's my entire day. Can't have that.
Yeah. I'm glad that it rained for you last week.
So am I.
We took care of that, made sure that you didn't have to deal with that. Usually I just tell them I'm working Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll do a Saturday watch along one of these days for college football. So check out the members. We got our super fans, we've our insider, and then of course the Howard Hughes billionaire tier.
Yeah,
which is getting lonely up the top.
Lots of various perks. You've got a merchandise discount. If you're the billionaire tier, you can name the studio, and you get your own merchandise gift pack sent out to you. You get your name on the wall as an insider tier. Let us know what type of perks you would like for the memberships. We're always open to adding or changing whatever it is. Brian Neal there in the chat says the book club segment was great. If you haven't seen that, go look at the video we did with David Fleming, talking about one of the craziest teams you're ever going to hear about.
You did get good feedback on that. Go check that out.
Yeah, the book club things they're never going to do big numbers. You're not going to get a massive amount of people clicking into that. But the ones that do, I think, enjoy that type of content. Yeah. It's an amazing story. So watch that. Let us know what you think, and let us know what books we should cover in future book clubs.
Drake brings up something I didn't realize, that SMU could be Sam Monson University.
It could be.
Yeah. So we should definitely do an SMU watch along with you as a super fan, with our gear on and everything.
I mean, we have to. We're going to get to the last few games of Kevin Jennings' career at SMU. That's going to be
at least like the college football playoff. We could do some stuff, but I want to do like a full Saturday. I need to book a full Saturday where we look, Kelly, busy working. Sorry, no days off this week. We got to take all day Saturday to be with our friends who have their name in green and they want to watch college football with us, right? Mm-hmm. So we'll see. Memberships, go check them out. Sign up, do the whole thing. Hit subscribe, hit thumbs up, do all the stuff on the way out. Appreciate everybody for tuning in today. We'll see you again tomorrow with our Week 8 NFL preview.